Chapter 320. This is Dragon Calling? Fan opened his cell phone, pulled up a map and handed it to Yushan. Yushan then drew a circle in the mountains in the southwest with her memory. The location is recorded on an ancient map of Xia, but the Yu family has switched to a modern map. It's within this area. The detailed location still requires you to personally go over and look for it. Yushan said after drawing it. In the mountains on the border between Xia and Myanmar, it's not far from here. It's just that this area is not a no man's land. If there really is a relic there, no one has found it after so many years? Fan looked at the range drawn by Yushan and asked with a frown on his brow. Our Yu family also has this concern, but because of the ancestral training, so we don't dare to go close to confirm the situation. However, at least before I was taken away by the witch god cult, we didn't get anything unusual in that area, so the possible relics over there are still being hidden, Yushan said. I feel that the witch god has not been able to find the relics, and the relics should not have been discovered. Yushan then said. Fan and Yushan nodded as they heard this. Yushan was right. If there was an abnormality on this side, the witch god cult would have definitely taken action, but the witch god cult had not been able to take any action, and the relics should have been well hidden since the beginning. Then you guys set off now, the faster the better. Yushan said. Wait for another day. When Catherine and the 5 southwestern families come to Wa Mountain City, leaving you alone here might be dangerous. Fan shook his head and said. The matter in Burma had made a big fuss, causing the whole world to pay attention, and the news coming from the internet was that a lot of people were looking for this Qin, and there would definitely be people who would come to Wa Mountain City to find out what was going on. The amount of time it would take to get to the ruins was still uncertain, and if Yushan was left alone, something would probably happen to her. As soon as Yushan heard Fan's words, her beautiful eyes twinkled as she looked at Fan and said, "Thank you." Fan smiled and said, "I should." Thus, Fan and Yushan stayed in Wa Mountain City for another day, and after a day, Catherine and the people from the 5 southwestern families arrived in Wa Mountain City. Those people from the 5 southwestern families felt like their hearts were going to explode when they learned about everything that had happened in Burma, and they were all thankful that they had decisively helped Fan before, or else, they didn't even know what would happen to them. And now, Fan was the one who had destroyed the witch god cult and made the Burmese country submit, and he had also taken Wa Mountain City for himself. Wa Mountain City was in the unregulated area, surrounded by a large number of jade mines, as well as all sorts of resources, which was a fortune so huge that it was unimaginable. And now, the Southwest 5 great families were considered Fan's people and came into Wa Mountain City, which meant that they could share a lot of wealth. This almost brought their 5 great families to the next level. Catherine, Yushan and I need to travel to a place. How much time it will take, I'm not sure yet, so on the days I'm not there, you're the lord of Wa Mountain City, and anyone who doesn't obey will be killed without mercy. Fan said to Catherine, and the moment he spoke, Fan took out the divine book and handed it to Catherine. And the moment this divine book appeared, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The book was not opened, but it had that power flowing from it that made the hearts of those present jump. After obtaining this book, Fan erased the marks on it, branded it with his own mark, and also strengthened it using his own mana. In Catherine's hands, the mighty spell aptitude that was unleashed could exert the power that should be present at the early stage of Jiedan, and if it was cast by him, it would be the peak power of the Jiedan stage. However, in Catherine's hands, a messy kill under the God Realm, and above the God Realm, should be able to handle it as well. Thus, Fan taught Catherine how to use this divine book that he had snatched from Michael, and instantly passed on a Blood Demon clan's technique for practicing the 9 changes of the Blood Demon. This is Fan killed a Yuaning stage Blood Demon to get, can cultivate as the Blood Demon clan, and Catherine said as the Blood clan, but Fan can feel the breath of the Blood Demon, just not pure enough, so still can cultivate. Catherine was of course shocked beyond belief when she got to get this gongfu. She felt that with this gongfu in her possession, she was fully capable of becoming a blood count, that is, she was a God Realm cultivator. After arranging everything, Fan and Yushan set out for the Holy Spirit sect ruins. Fan picked up Yushan in his arms before his figure moved and transformed into a rainbow light that shot straight into the sky. The area that Yushan had drawn was not that far from Washan City, just 500 kilometers away. With Fan's current speed, it would only take a minute or two. Soon, Fan brought Yushan to the sky above the area. Yushan hugged Fan, her heart beating extremely fast. This experience of being held in her arms and suspended in the air was something she had never even thought of. What? Fan seemed to have sensed Yushan's emotions and asked. If I cultivate, can I also fly towards you like this? Yushan asked. Of course I can. Fan responded. Yushan listened to the smile that appeared and said, I will try my best to cultivate. Aha! Qin Fan answered, then with a sweep of his body, he landed in the cluster of mountains. This group of mountains was not a no-man's land, and several villages could be seen scattered, but these villages did not have many people, and each village was only a few hundred people in size. Naturally, Qin Fan did not enter these villages. Instead, he carried Yushan in his arms as he flew through the mountains and forests, while at the same time unfolding his divine sense and continuously searching for the Holy Spirit sect's relics. The area drawn on the map was about 800 square kilometers, which was large to the average person, but to a cultivator like Qin Fan who had a powerful divine sense, it was not that large. After spending half a day, the entire area was searched. After the search was completed, Qin Fan landed on a hillside with Yushan in his arms. "What's wrong? Didn't you find it?" Yushan asked. Qin Fan nodded. Using his divine sense, he basically swept through the entire area, but he did not find anything similar to a relic. "Then what should we do?" Yushan asked. "There is nothing to be found on the ground, maybe it's underground." Qin Fan spoke up. "Underground?" Yushan raised an eyebrow at that. "It's very likely, if it's above ground, it's likely to be discovered by the mountain people who live in this area. If it's underground, then the search range is a bit large," Qin Fan said. His divine sense could penetrate underground, it was just that if the depth of the ruins was very deep, there was a possibility that he would miss it, and that was the trouble. "Why don't we ask those mountain people if there are any strange rumors, especially about the underground?" Yushan said. "It can be done," Qin Fan said, and then headed to those mountain villages. After inquiring around, Qin Fan and Yushan quickly locked onto a cave in a mountain. This cave was known as the Devil's Cave, and many mountain people would go missing when they passed by or what animals passed by, which attracted many exploration teams and even the military, but into all of them disappeared within the cave, so it was called the Magic Cave. "This is the Magic Cave that those mountain people are talking about." Qin Fan stood at the entrance of the cave with Yushan, and his divine sense swept towards the inside. The cave extended continuously towards the inside, and after going nearly 50 kilometers deep, Qin Fan felt that his divine sense suddenly disappeared. This caused his complexion to change, and he immediately understood that at the end of this place, there was the Chaos Pearl Great Tao Fragment. Thereupon, Qin Fan did not hesitate to immediately carry Yushan deeper within the Devil's Cave. Qin Fan's speed was very fast, and in just a few minutes, he was close to the place where the divine sense had disappeared. Roar! However, just as Qin Fan was about to approach, a low roar came violently. Qin Fan's complexion changed when he heard this sound, and he was surprised. "This is a dragon roar?" Chapter 321, Snakes Everywhere. Roar! A low roar came from the depths of the cave, and for a moment, it caused Yushan to immediately hug Qin Fan tightly, and her delicate body trembled slightly with it. This roar was not only terrifying, it carried a terrifying pressure in it, causing Yushan to tremble from her mind to her soul. "Qin Fan!" Yushan hugged Qin Fan tightly and shouted with a slightly trembling voice. "This should be the sound of a dragon chirping." Qin Fan frowned. "A dragon? Dragon?" Yushan's face was full of astonishment. "Those dragons recorded in the legends? It shouldn't be wrong, this sound vaguely carries a dragon's might, because your cultivation is too weak, so you were shocked by the dragon's might," Qin Fan said. Yushan was only at the second level of qi refining right now, while a dragon was a strange, exotic, or even divine beast that was powerful at the moment of its birth. Yushan at the second level of qi refining was naturally unable to withstand the dragon's might, and as he spoke, Qin Fan released his mana and protected Yushan, and immediately Yushan felt her body relax a lot. Then, Qin Fan casually released a fireball that illuminated the surrounding. With the appearance of the fireball, the true appearance of the surroundings was presented in the eyes of the two. "It really is a relic." Upon seeing everything clearly, Yushan said. "Now a ladder passage above." The ladder passage was a bit broken, obviously had a certain age, and the surrounding walls were also chipped by some means, and on the walls could be seen inlaid dull beads. It should be a night pearl or something like that, but because the age was really too long, it also could no longer glow. This ladder passage extends all the way down, because the firelight range is limited, can't see the end yet. It was now certain that the end was definitely the Holy Spirit sect's Holy Land ruins. "Go," Qin Fan said to Yushan. "Aha." Yushan nodded and closely followed Qin Fan along the stairway passage towards the depths. 100 meters, 200 meters, 300 meters, 500 meters, about nearly 2,000 meters of walking before they reached the end. Wow! And the moment the two stepped into the end, the sound of water immediately came from under their feet. Under the illumination of the firelight, it could be seen that the surroundings were a large space with a large amount of water on the ground, while around them the two also felt the wind blowing from one direction. At the same time, there were also intermittent sounds of water drops coming from the area. Obviously water from above had infiltrated here. All of this told Qin Fan that this was definitely not a closed space. And at this moment, Yushan suddenly let out a sound of dry retching. An unbearable fishy odor permeated the surroundings. Qin Fan then released a spell so that these unpleasant odors could not come close to the two of them. Qin Fan then opened his eye of true vision and scanned the entire place, which was currently in a huge hall-like place, but everything inside was so badly damaged that it would not be an exaggeration to describe it as a crumbling wall. After the eye of true vision scanned around, Qin Fan did not find any strange things, indicating that what he was looking for as well as the core area of the Holy Spirit sect's ruins were not here. Follow the direction the wind is blowing, Qin Fan said, so he led Yushan towards the direction the wind was blowing from. Hisses. Just as Qin Fan and Yushan walked out roughly 100 meters or so, near the wind, there was a sudden burst of sound. Snake, it's a snake. Yushan hid behind Qin Fan, her eyes staring ahead as she let out a sound of panic. Only to see that ahead, a long snake appeared. This snake stood upright, its eyes staring sharply at the two men, its snake letters continuously spitting out. How is it a snake? What happened to the sound of the dragon's roar just now? Qin Fan frowned as he looked at this snake. This snake was just a very ordinary beast, but its size was not small. Visually there was a length of more than 3 meters, and it was as thick as a thigh. Of course, Qin Fan was definitely not afraid of this snake. After all, it was just an ordinary beast. This snake discovered Qin Fan and Yushan. Its body violently flicked and shot towards the two of them. The snake's mouth opened and bit towards the two of them. Qin Fan took a look at the snake, and halfway through its body, the snake exploded and turned into blood mist. Only, it didn't end when this snake died. Sounds came from the surroundings once again, and then densely packed, a large number of snakes came towards the two from all directions as if they were a tidal wave. These snakes vary in size. The small ones are more than a meter long, the big ones are more than 10 meters long. These snakes' eyes emanate a ghostly green light, which is extremely scary, and the open snake mouth reveals Sin Sen's fangs, which launches an attack on the two. This scene easily reminds people of the plague of Python. Not to mention ordinary people, even those martial artists and cultivators, when faced with this tidal wave of snakes, they would all be shocked and even die here. Only, all of this was of no use to Qin Fan at all. Qin Fan didn't even use his means, merely releasing his breath. Those snakes that came close exploded into blood mist and vanished in smoke. And behind her, Yushan was shocked when she saw all this. She had received Qin Fan's imparted gungfu, contacted the cultivation world, and knew about invincible powerhouses like the God Realm, but after looking at Qin Fan, she could no longer really comprehend Qin Fan's strength. I must catch up with Qin Fan, or else. Yushan followed behind Qin Fan, the idea of becoming stronger becoming more and more determined. Qin Fan advanced as he went up, while the number of those snakes was endless, rushing forward and back. What's going on? The further they advance, the stronger they get. Some of the snakes have become demonic snakes. After advancing a large distance, Qin Fan was slightly surprised. After advancing a large distance, the snakes still did not decrease. Not only did they not decrease, but also among them, Qin Fan unexpectedly found that some snakes had become demonic beasts, and some of the demonic snakes even had the strength of the 3rd level of qi refining. Ordinary beasts, after absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, will most likely cultivate like humans, and eventually become demonic beasts, and if they cultivate again, they will be able to transform into the demon race. And now, amongst this group of snakes, Qin Fan had actually found demonic snakes that had transformed into demonic beasts. Although these demonic snakes would not affect him, this change did surprise him a bit, which made the curiosity towards this relic grow. Just as Qin Fan was curious, the snakes around him suddenly became less, and even the surroundings became extremely quiet. The quietness is a bit scary. Even Yushan sensed that the snakes suddenly disappeared and the surroundings suddenly became quieter was a bit off. Qin Fan naturally also felt it, and suddenly he sensed an aura and fiercely lifted towards negotiating above. Only to see 2 green moon hanging in the dark sky. Only, Qin Fan quickly realized that these were not moons, but Snake Eyes Chapter 322, Snake transforming into a dragon. Qin Fan and Yushan looked at the snake shadow that appeared in front of them, and their first reaction was that it was big. Visually, its length exceeded 50 meters, and its body was nearly 2 meters thick. This is also too big. Yushan's voice was trembling a bit, and if it wasn't for Qin Fan being by her side, she was afraid that she would have fainted on the spot. As for Qin Fan, he looked at the unimaginably large snake in front of him and revealed a look of surprise. When he was in the Qinshan starfield, he had seen many demonic beasts and demonic clans, but this was really the first time he had seen such a large snake. No, this can no longer be considered a snake. However, Qin Fan shook his head and said, "That's right, this big snake in front of him could no longer be considered a snake. Its head had obvious changes with the snake he encountered before. The shape was already somewhat similar to a dragon head, and the protrusion was already seen on it, the protrusion of the prototype of a dragon's horns, and the scales on the body were emitting a greenish-green glow. No longer snake scales were already somewhat close to dragon scales. The snake in front of him was in the stage of transforming into a dragon, and its appearance had already appeared in the embryonic form of a dragon. This appearance seems like a dragon." Yushan recovered at this moment and said after seeing the appearance of this huge snake in front of her, "A snake needs at least 1,000 years to transform into a dragon, and this snake is at the stage of transforming into a dragon, and is definitely more than 1,000 years old." Qin Fan said to Yushan, "A snake transforming into a dragon, is this true?" Yushan said the probability of this is very low, and this big snake should have been in this place, swallowed some kind of heavenly material, and then after 1,000 years, or even thousands of years, it finally came to the stage of about to transform into a dragon. Qin Fan explained as he looked at this snake in front of him that was about to transform into a dragon. As for this big snake in front of him, its green and ghostly eyes were currently staring at the intruder who had suddenly arrived in front of him. Roar! In the next moment, this large snake let out a low chirping sound. The sound had gotten rid of the snake's chirp and was already a dragon's chirp, and there was also a dragon's might emanating from it, which all but told Qin Fan that this big snake was in the last stage of transforming into a dragon. At the moment when the snake's huge mouth opened, a green light shone out of the mouth, and then a powerful force was compressed into a green ball of light, which was sprayed out of the mouth and shot towards Qin Fan and Yushan. This ball of light was close to 2 meters in diameter, carrying a strong and incomparable force, flying through the air and constantly emitting a popping sound, as if it was a heavy bomb flying through the air. When Yushan saw this scene, her face instantly paled. She could feel that this ball of light contained an extremely strong power, very strong. It even felt like it had surpassed the divine abilities released by the sorcerer god. If the strength of this snake was measured by the realm of a human cultivator, it had already reached the god realm, and I was afraid that it could enter the top 10 when placed on the god list. However, this strength was naturally nothing in Qin Fan's view. He extended his right hand and a wave of mana was released, then the green ball of light stopped in midair, followed by the ball of light being quickly shrunk and then disappeared without a trace. Seeing this scene, that big snake's eyes, which were already very big, once again became bigger. Obviously this big snake, which had lived for thousands of years and was in the stage of transforming into a dragon, was also spiritually intelligent. Qin Fan's tactics just now had obviously shocked it, or rather, there had been people who had come to enter this place, but they had all been obliterated by it with this trick. However, this big snake's reaction was also very fast, and after this move failed, it opened its huge snake mouth again, followed by several green balls of light bursting out of its mouth. Qin Fan still did as he did, and then with a grab, he imprisoned all these balls of light in midair, then compressed and dissipated them. This big snake with spirituality completely realized this time that this human in front of him was very powerful, and then his body moved violently, while his huge snake mouth opened and tore towards Qin Fan. Obviously, this big snake was going to move for real. Bang! Only, the moment this big snake was close to Qin Fan, a slap suddenly flashed in its eyes, and this slap clipped on its head, then a dull sound came out. Then the huge snake body of this big snake flew up, flipped continuously in the air, and then ruthlessly smashed into the distance. The big snake was struggling on the ground, its eyes were starry, and it was a bit dazed from this slap. What was the situation? It had reigned supreme here for a long time, and the people who came in here were all killed by it, but now, how could this person who came in not be killed? Soon, it erected its body again, and then its body began to bulge, and its head, which was already hideous, became more and more hideous, and within its body, a strong force was released, causing the surrounding area to vibrate continuously. Whoosh! In the next moment, the huge body of this big snake unexpectedly flew up directly and swooped towards Qin Fan. The huge snake's mouth opened as if it was going to swallow the world. It believed that this human would definitely not be able to block it this time. Only, in the next moment, it felt that it received another heavy blow to its head, and then its head slammed hard towards the ground. Bang! A roaring sound came from the snake's head hitting the ground first, directly smashing out a deep pit, and then the huge body smashed on the ground, sending out another roaring sound. The big snake was once again blinded, the snake's head leaned on the ground, the huge snake's eyes blinked and blinked, looking pitifully at Shinfan, who stood not far away from it. "It's normal that you can't understand with your current spiritual wisdom," Shinfan said as he looked at the big snake. Shinfan naturally knew that this big snake already had spiritual intelligence, but the spiritual intelligence was not high, and it was estimated to be the IQ of a 7 or 8-year-old child. As for whether this big snake understood what he said, Shinfan was not sure. And at the moment he spoke, an extreme killing aura immediately permeated his body. The big snake instinctively felt the killing intent that Shinfan emitted, and then a kind of fear of death immediately descended, and then the huge body instinctively began to twist, and a strand of power was released to make a final resistance. However, Shinfan's power then suppressed it. This big snake immediately felt like being suppressed by a vast mountain, all the power immediately dispersed, the huge body can't move, only the huge snake eyes blinking pitifully looked at Shinfan seemed to beg for mercy. "Forget it, it's not easy for you to come this far, let you live." Just at the moment when the big snake felt like dying, all the power suddenly dispersed and then the human's voice was heard. As this power dispersed, this great snake had understood that the other party was trying to let it go. Then, it once again stood up its huge body and looked at Shinfan, its eyes blinking and blinking, the disappearance of the original hideous look. Instead, it looked innocent. "This, how does it look?" somewhat aggrieved. Yushan looked at this big snake in front of her and couldn't help but say, "Go away." Shinfan waved his hand, signaling that the big snake could go. Dragons were already rare, not to mention snakes transforming into dragons, which could only appear in tens of thousands of years or even hundreds of thousands of years, so to really kill this big snake at the stage of transforming into a dragon was a bit of a pity for Shinfan. Anyway, this big snake can't threaten him, let go and let it grow here, one day, really can see a dragon appear. When this big snake saw this gesture from Shinfan, it hesitated for a moment before twisting its head and leaving. "Let's continue looking for the core area of the ruins," Shinfan said to Yushan. "Aha!" Yushan answered. Thus, Shinfan led Yushan to continue searching for the core area of the ruins in this underground area. Because the divine sense was interfered by the Chaos Pearl Great Tao fragment, finding things did consume some time, and after Shinfan and Yushan had advanced in one direction for a while, a whistling sound came from behind them. As soon as Shinfan heard the sound, he turned his head to look and saw the large snake rushing towards the two of them at an extremely fast speed, so he said with some dissatisfaction, "Do you really want to die?" However, the snake sensed the aura emitted by Shinfan and still didn't stop, but slowed down, and after slowly approaching Shinfan, the huge snake's head was lowered, its eyes blinking as it looked at Shinfan in a pleasing manner. "Shinfan, what is it doing?" Yushan also saw that the snake's attitude was not right. "Ah, you're asking the two of us to go up?" Shinfan then asked. This would seem like this big snake had guessed what Shinfan meant and then let out a soft cry. With that, Shinfan jumped onto the snake's head with Yushan. This big snake immediately straightened up its snake body, appearing very happy, and then took Shinfan and Yushan in a direction, and went Chapter 323 Yin Yang Heaven Mending Technique. The large snake carried Shinfan and Yushan as it darted underground. "This underground is a city ruin, right? The Holy Spirit sect's ruins are huge." Yushan stood on the head of the great snake and looked all the way over, sort of seeing what was going on with this underground relic. The underground relics were in a huge underground space. While sitting in this space, one could see all sorts of buildings that had been destroyed. This place was just like a city, and it wasn't small in scale, at least it was a small city inhabited by 500,000 people. Shinfan was also a bit surprised. He had thought that since this Holy Spirit sect Holy Land relic was underground, it should be a tomb, but as a result of this look, it was actually a city, although it was already in a state of disrepair. But if it was in that era, it must have been an extremely prosperous city thousands of years ago. To open up such a space underground and then build a city, how did it happen? Yushan was astonished after witnessing everything in the underground ruins. This was several thousand meters underground, and then to open up such a huge underground space, this was truly beyond cognition. Shinfan was also surprised. Opening up such a large space in such a deep underground, this means was already something that could only be done by a Yuan stage cultivator. If one wanted to maintain hundreds of thousands of people to continue living underground, this was no longer something that a Yuan stage cultivator could do. It would require several, or perhaps even a God transformation stage cultivator to do so. What is the origin of this Holy Spirit sect? Thousands of years ago or even longer ago, there were Yuan or even God transformation stage cultivators? Shinfan had a lot of thoughts. Earth's cultivation Dao was currently in shambles, not to mention Yuaning, even true Jiedan stage cultivators did not exist. However, Xin Fan knew that a complete immortal cultivation Dao tradition must have existed on Earth a long time ago, only to be lost and crippled in this era. And right now, this Holy Spirit sex relics were left behind by those complete immortal cultivation Dao lineages. Aang. Just as Xin Fan was pondering, the Great Serpent let out a sound that brought Xin Fan and Yushan back to their senses. Arrived? After Xin Fan came back to his senses, he eyed the front, which was a dilapidated palace. This palace was dilapidated, but the interior was surprisingly emitting light, illuminating everything inside. The palace was large and various buildings could be seen, as well as gardens. The Great Serpent brought the two here and didn't stop before rushing towards a corner of the palace. Soon, the Great Serpent stopped in front of an already dilapidated garden and lowered its head, signaling the two to come down. What is this for? Yushan asked with some confusion as she came down. Xin Fan looked towards the dilapidated garden and froze for a moment when he saw all kinds of withered plants as well as all kinds of rotting fruits, then said to the big snake, "This is the spiritual pill garden. Did you eat a lot of things here to become like this? That's why you brought us here and wanted us to eat some of the things here as well." The big snake understood Xin Fan's words this time and nodded its head repeatedly, signaling that it was right. It came here a long time ago and ate all kinds of spiritual medicines and spiritual fruits here before it became like this. Yushan heard Xin Fan's words and looked at the big snake and said with a smile, "You are repaying the favor of not killing." The big snake, on the other hand, gave the two of them a pleasing look, which meant what Yushan said. Xin Fan laughed, then said with slight regret, "It's a pity that I came too late. What should wither has withered and what should rot has rotted." After coming down, Xin Fan used the Eye of True Vision to sweep around the spirit medicine garden, where there were no longer any spirit herbs or spirit medicines. Because the time was just too long ago and there was also this big snake eating it, there really wasn't any spiritual herbs or fruits left now. Indeed, it seems like they've all rotted. Yushan also revealed a look of pity. "I'll look for any seeds that can be used and bring them back so that I can plant them." Xin Fan added. These spirit medicines or spirit fruits had all withered or rotted, but it was highly likely that there would be seeds left behind, and the spirit medicines here were definitely heavenly treasures if they could make an ordinary snake walk to this point. And because of the strange withered branches in his own villa, it was full of life energy, so any seeds of spiritual plants planted there would inevitably be able to take root and germinate, and then grow heavenly treasures. After saying that, Xin Fan entered the spirit medicine garden and started searching. Seeing that Xin Fan was searching, the great snake revealed a happy expression. It had been right to bring someone here. There really are some. After Xin Fan searched around, he really found 7 seeds for him, and then placed these seeds within his supreme treasure bottle. Then he walked out of the spirit medicine garden and said to Yushan, "This palace should be the core of the relics. The thing that the Holy Spirit sect has been legendary about should be inside here. Let's continue to go deeper." Aha! Yushan nodded. Seeing that the two seemed to want to go deeper, she volunteered to be a guide again, leading the two to quickly travel within the massive palace ruins. Xin Fan couldn't help but smile when he saw this big snake working so hard. Here, because divine sense could not be used, really searching such a huge place would definitely take quite a bit of time, but now that he had this big snake that had lived here for an unknown number of years as a guide, he thought that he would be able to find what he was looking for in no time. As expected, the great serpent traveled within the ruins of the palace with complete purpose, and after roughly a few minutes brought the two of them before a great hall. This great hall was similarly dilapidated, but it was far better than the others, and the shape of the great hall was completely visible. Xin Fan didn't hesitate to immediately lead Yushan to jump off the great snake and then walked into the great hall. The great serpent, on the other hand, coiled up its body and then stood guard outside. It seems to be a great hall for sacrifices. After entering, Xin Fan swept a glance and had an initial judgment. The hall was large, and inside it was equally dilapidated, but one could still tell that this hall was used for rituals, and the most conspicuous thing within this hall were the 2 huge stone statues in the center. A man and a woman, with the lower half of their bodies as snakes and the upper half as humans? Yushan looked at the 2 stone statues with a slight frown on her brows, then thought furiously and blurted out, "Could these 2 be Fuxi and Nuwa?" Fuxi and Nuwa? Xin Fan said with a frown at his words, "The ancestors of the human race in the legends of Xia, Emperor Shi and Emperor Nuwa." This was after Xin Fan came to Earth and read various rumors of gods, demons and monsters, among which there was talk of Emperor Shi and Emperor Nuwa, and these 2 were the ancestors of mankind. Not only that, amongst these rumors, these 2 were of heavenly strength. This can't be the legendary city created by Emperor Shi and Emperor Nuwa, right? That's why the people here worship these two human emperors. Yushan said. Xin Fan thought for a moment. If it was really these two human emperors, it was really possible because according to the description of the rumors these two people's strength definitely exceeded the transformation god realm. Go over and take a look. Then, Xin Fan said and led Yushan to the two stone statues. What is this? This. What is this? Yushan walked to the heels of the two stone statues and saw that there were many lifelike patterns on top of the huge base, and the patterns were all of men and women. This made the untouched Yushan blush with shame, and she didn't even dare to look at it. Yin-yang mending skill. It was just that Xin Fan did not pay attention to these patterns, but was instead viewing the words on the base. This is the yin-yang dual cultivation technique, and it is of extremely high grade. Chapter 324, The Five Elements Meld. Dual cultivation? When Yushan heard Xin Fan's voice, her face became more and more blushing, her hands covered her face and she didn't even dare to look at Xin Fan. She had the experience of being nurtured by young master, which is a cauldron, so she naturally understood what the dual cultivation Xin Fan was referring to in his words. Not only that, during the day of waiting for Catherine, her aunt Yushan had also told her about the cultivation technique among the Yu family, which was a double cultivation and harvesting method. Only, this gong method was to extract yin to complement yang, belonging to the evil gong, and it was slowly sealed. Now, Xin Fan looked at the words on the pedestal, as well as the engraved painting. She was really dying of shame. And this place, as the Holy Spirit sect's holy relics, and the bloodline and special physique in her body were all related to the Holy Spirit sect and maybe even to the former owner of this place. This dual cultivation technique was the most important thing about this relic, and Yushan's thoughts were right in the slightest. At this moment, after Xin Fan had read through the yin-yang mending skill, he was also shocked. Xin Fan himself knew dual cultivation techniques, and the dual cultivation technique he knew belonged to one of the top techniques in the Qingxian star region, named the Heaven and Earth Infinite Harmony technique. And this yin-yang mending heavenly skill was almost directly referring to the essence of the yin-yang cultivation avenue, and it was much stronger than the Heaven and Earth Infinite Harmony skill. With the comparison, Xin Fan naturally did not have a moment's hesitation and immediately memorized all of this set of gong methods, making a detailed comprehension of the gong methods. Then he turned to Yushan and said in a serious manner, "This should be the most important thing in the Holy Spirit's X relics, and this gong method can actually be divided into two parts, the Cixi Huang Gong and Nuwa Huang Gong. The Cixi Huang Gong is for males to cultivate and the Nuwa Huang Gong is for females to cultivate, in that both of them cultivate together, with the man running the Cixi Huang Gong and the woman running the Nuwa Huang Gong. That's the yin-yang heavens mending gong." Yushan was slightly stunned upon hearing this. This cultivation technique is really subtle and can be practiced alone, so you can cultivate Nuwa Huang Gong. Xin Fan said once again. Oh. Yushan softly answered. And then Xin Fan taught Yushan the yin-yang heaven mending technique, while explaining the Nuwa Emperor technique to her. Yushan's comprehension was very strong and naturally understood the Nuwa Huang Gong after Xin Fan's explanation, as well as how to transform it into the yin-yang mending heavenly gong during dual cultivation. It was just that the positions were just too shy. After Xin Fan finished his explanation, he raised his head and turned his gaze to the intersection of the arms of the two statues, and at that intersection, there was an earth-colored bead. This is it, the Chaos Bead Earth Attribute Great Tao Fragment. As long as I absorb and refine it, I will have gathered all 5 attributes. Xin Fan looked at the earth-colored bead and said in his heart. Currently, Xin Fan already had the 10,000 ancient evergreen body, the aqua-green sky body, the heavenly flame sacred body, and the golden light phaseless body, and now he lacked the earth attribute. Once he cultivated into an earth attribute body, he would be able to transform into the 5 elements saint body. Yushan, I might need to cultivate in this place for a while. You can also cultivate here. With that big snake outside, it won't be dangerous to cultivate here. Xin Fan turned to Yushan and said. Upon hearing this, Yushan was slightly stunned, then nodded. With that, Xin Fan leapt and flew to the crossed hands of the two statues. The statues' palms were large, and after Xin Fan landed, he immediately sat down on his knees before releasing the chaos bead. As the chaos bead was released, the earth-colored bead vibrated, and strands of earth-colored aura were drawn out of it and then entered within the chaos bead. Xin Fan then began to refine this breath. As for Yushan, when she saw Xin Fan enter into cultivation, she naturally showed some boredom and simply sat down as well, attempting to cultivate the Nuwa Huang Gong. The Nuwa Emperor technique was almost tailor-made for Yushan's physique and bloodline, and when she cultivated it, she was naturally comfortable with it, and the effect was much stronger than the return to origin technique that Xin Fan had passed on before Rumble. Time passed, and after Yushan had cultivated for half a day, a sudden rumbling sound came, waking her up from her cultivation. Qin Fan. Her first reaction was to look at Qin Fan, and she immediately froze. Only to see the five-colored light shining above Qin Fan's body above, and this five-colored light seemed to be slowly merging, and during this process, a roaring sound kept coming from Qin Fan's body. Along with this roaring sound, even the great snake that was guarding the outside was startled and then swam in. Only, it also froze when it saw Qin Fan's appearance, and then hurriedly lowered its head, not daring to look at it anymore. At this moment, Qin Fan was exuding a powerful aura, causing this big snake with spirituality to fear Yushan. On the other hand, was staring at Qin Fan in a daze. She knew that Qin Fan was about to become stronger again, which also made her thoughts turn 1,000 times, and then she made up her mind. As for Qin Fan, he had already cultivated into the thick earth sacred body, and now the 5 attributes of his physique began to merge, allowing his physique to transform towards the 5 elements body. The 5 attributes were born from each other, and every time they were born, it made Qin Fan's body feel incredibly comfortable, while at the time of their opposites, it was a roar that came from him, causing his body to suffer immensely. This process, Qin Fan did not know how long it lasted. However, after that, he slowly endured waiting for the complete fusion. Time passed minute by minute. Qin Fan's body, that 5 elements of power also slowly fusion. The third day when, after his 5 colors were completely received into the body, and then all the breath was converged into the body, it's become the body of 5 elements. Qin Fan opened his eyes and let out a breath. At this moment, Qin Fan felt the change in his physique, accommodating the power of the 5 attributes, which allowed him to possess the traits of all 5 attributes at the same time. It's just a pity that this cultivation hasn't been raised much. There's still a long way to go before the great circle of Yuaning realm. Qin Fan secretly said as he felt the changes. After fusing the earth attribute Dao fragment, completing the qualitative change of the 5 elements sacred body naturally also allowed him to raise his cultivation once again, and this raise was actually not too small. It was just that there was still a long way to go from the Yuaning realm great circle after the raise ending his cultivation. Qin Fan looked over and realized that Yushan had been on guard and should be waiting for him. Whoosh! With that, Qin Fan leapt from above and landed beside Yushan, saying, "This new Emperor technique is very suitable for you. Your cultivation has increased quite a lot in the past few days." Yushan pursed her lips and nodded again in response. "Aha! It's almost time. It's time to go back," Qin Fan said to Yushan. "Ah." Yushan froze for a moment upon hearing this. "What's wrong? Still want to cultivate here for a while?" Qin Fan asked with some confusion. When Yushan heard this, her fists clenched up, then she took a deep breath and gathered her courage in the next instant. Yushan hugged Qin Fan. "What's wrong?" Qin Fan was suddenly stunned by Yushan hugging him like this, then asked. I want to double cultivate with you." Yushan buried her head in Qin Fan's chest and stammered in an extremely shy voice. Chapter 325, All Parties Moving Together. At the moment when Qin Fan and Yushan traveled to the Holy Spirit sex relics, everything that happened in Myanmar didn't stop. It still continued to ferment, and the forces of all parties, especially those on the western side, had moved out. South Pacific, Australia, Sanctuary Headquarters. The temple is the strongest force in Australia. When Britain was covered all over the world, called the Sunset Empire, the Emperor of the British Empire under the banner of a number of forces, of which the temple is in charge of the criminal law, and the land of Australia is the temple as the exile of the sinner of the people. Years later, Britain declined, the United States of America came to the top of the world, Australia separated from Britain, and since then the Australian members of the temple also separated from the Temple of Britain, becoming the largest and strongest force in Australia. At this time, at the headquarters of the temple, those temple members were working and practicing as usual, when all of a sudden in the depths of the headquarters, a golden light shot up to the sky. In this golden light, a man's figure appeared. This middle-aged man had brown hair, and his features were a mix of Chinese and Western blood. His appearance was very handsome. This is in the central hall of the Holy Temple. At this moment, the first hallmaster was leading all the hallmasters of the Holy Temple to deal with the affairs within the Holy Temple. The first hallmaster was shocked when he sensed the bright golden light, and then his face was permeated with the color of endless joy as he got up and said, "Our king has emerged." Boom! A booming sound came from the sky as the golden light cut through the sky and finally rushed into the central hall. The first hallmaster of the Holy Temple, Keenan Sam, pays his respects to the king. The second temple master of the Holy Temple, Lucas Porter, pays his respects to the king. The third temple master of the Holy Temple, John Falcao, pays his respects to the king. The people within the great hall rose up one after another, kneeling and bowing to this man who had appeared. And this middle-aged man, with a calm face, walked straight to the throne directly above and sat down. His body's golden light surged, his aura was amazing, and he faintly said, "All rise." Soon, along with these hall masters, there were also those patriarchs of the holy temple who had risen. "I'd been in seclusion for 10 years, has anything happened during these times?" The king of the sacred temple asked indifferently. "My king, Hua Tianqing, died, and the Hua Tian sect has been merged into the holy temple." The first hallmaster then stepped forward and told the king of the sacred hall one by one what had happened during these years. The king of the sacred palace listened to these things, his brows frowning slightly. "I didn't expect that after all these years of me being in seclusion, my good friend Hua Tianqing died, in the hands of a Grandmaster Qin by the name of Grandmaster Qin. Hua Tianqing's disciple, Guda, has always hoped that the king would go out and kill that Master Qin to avenge Hua Tianqing's death. Is that why you are out of seclusion this time?" Qin and Sam said, "Hua Tianqing is my close friend, I will avenge him, but not now." The king of the temple said. "Then why did you suddenly come out of the gate, king?" Qin and Sam asked with some doubt. This king, before his seclusion, had said that he would not come out until he had entered the legend, but now it was obvious that he had not yet entered the legend realm. "An oracle came from the Hall of Gods, asking me to make a trip to Yushan city to search out that anomaly Qin," the king of temples said. The faces of these temple lords suddenly changed drastically upon hearing this. "King, this Qin has already ascended to the 5th place on the god ranking. Are you in danger if you go alone?" Qin and Sam immediately asked with worry. "Do you think I'm not his match?" the king of the temple asked. When the crowd heard this, they didn't dare to speak. This king had stepped into the god realm after World War II, and thus hadn't ascended the god ranking, and as for his strength, no one knew. It was just that 10 years ago he had fought against the 9th on the god ranking, Hijack, and after that, the king returned to the sanctuary and closed his eyes to cultivate. There were many different opinions on that battle, and the outcome was unknown. However, the crowd at least knew that this king's strength was definitely not much worse than the 9th on the god ranking, and with another 10 years of seclusion, his strength at this moment was unfathomable. "This time, I'm not the only one, all the other powerful people will go," the king of the temple added. When the crowd heard this, they were shocked. Sure enough, this Qin's sudden appearance still made the West fidgety. "After this time, I will make a side trip to the Summer Kingdom to kill Master Qin." At the moment when everyone was shocked, the voice of the king of the temple came out again, and then it turned into a golden light and shot out into the distance, like a golden thunderbolt. Southeast Mojave, California, United States of America. In the center of the desert, there is a prison built of steel. This prison is called the Prison of Death, which incarcerated 3 criminals. These 3 people are extremely dangerous characters. Once each person is released, will cause a shocking case. At this moment, inside the prison, a Western man with a 3-star military uniform on his shoulder was walking inside the prison with several people, and finally he stopped before cell number 3. Magnum, born 40 years ago in the rainforest of the Mo country, born with an invincible flesh body, with extreme recovery power. Legend has it that as long as his head is not broken, he will not die. Treated as a monster. Once 15 years ago, one person massacred 200,000 civilians in the Mo country, and then finally had a fierce battle with the army, hit by countless bullets, and even under the thermobaric bombs he still didn't die, and finally slaughtered the 300,000 soldiers of the Mo country, and was classified as an extremely high-risk criminal. 8 years ago, he was besieged by the 5 God Realm Angels of the Divine Punishment Surrogates and was finally brought here. This 3-star general stood before the gate, reading the information of the prisoners within the cell. Only, there was no response within the cell. "Magnum, there is now a mission, and as long as you can complete it, you will be set free." This 3-star general read it and then said in a stone voice, "Bang." Just as those words fell, a booming sound like a bomb hitting a steel door came. "What, don't let that god of yours but want me to make a move?" Magnum let out a sneer. "This is your only chance to get free," the 3-star general said again. "Open the door." Magnum let out a low voice. Rumble. The thick steel door came roaring as his words fell, then slowly opened. Only to see a thin, yellow-skinned Amazon walk out with a handcuff on both hands. "What's the mission?" Magnum asked. "Yushan City, find out Qin and if you can, kill," the 3-star general said. "Kill?" Magnum grinned, revealing fangs that were sharp as if they were beasts. "Killing and eating people, my favorite. In the north of Europa, in the country of Norway, in the middle of a snowy mountain." This snowy mountain was known as the Odin God Mountain, and the legend was that it was the earthly capital of the Nordic god Odin. At the top of the snowy mountain, before the statue of Odin, a woman wearing ice blue armor with snow-white hair and a beautiful appearance knelt respectfully. Valkyrie, travel to Yushan city. An old voice came from the Odin idol. I respectfully obey the oracle. Valkyrie respectfully answered. After she finished speaking, a pair of white wings spread out behind her, then rushed away and disappeared into the sky. In Europa, in the city of Paris, the enameled country, in the middle of a dark alley, a woman wearing revealing clothes, with an outstanding figure and blonde hair draped over her shoulders, walked to a small bistro with a smile on her face, and knocked on the door with regularity. The door was quickly opened, and the woman walked in to see her target, a middle-aged man who reeked of alcohol, and who was the Black Emperor, the third on the underground dark ranking, which made countless people in the world scared. Underground dark list is a killer list. Black Emperor is the realm cultivation of God realm, because engaged in shady killing hooks, and not recognized by the God list and ascended to the God list, but his strength is undoubtedly, will enter the top 10 of the God list. What mission? Black Emperor asked drunkenly. Travel to Wa Mountain City and look for out Qin or kill. The woman said. Reward? Black Emperor asked. Find out the real body of Qin. 100 million euros, kill him, 1 billion euros. The woman said. The Black Emperor looked the woman up and down, then hugged the woman and grinned, I still want you. After saying that, the woman's clothes instantly burst open, then the Black Emperor directly pounced on her. In the capital of Myanmar, the Prime Minister's residence, a six-winged angel sat on the Prime Minister's seat, and below was kneeling the top brass of the Mayan kingdom. Lord Lucifer, that's all I know, I really don't know the identity of that Qin. The Burmese kingdom first trembled and said. After hearing this, Lucifer slowly got up and muttered to himself, I returned from hell, regained God's blessing, and transformed from hell monarch Lucifer into morning star Lucifer. I didn't realize that Michael had already died. Qin, even if I fall into hell again, I will still kill you. As his words fell, 3 pairs of angelic wings opened up and a vast power was released. This power of holy and evil intertwined and swept crazily. The entire Prime Minister's palace instantly collapsed, while those who were caught up in it all died and became a puddle of flesh and blood. Lucifer turned into a white light and headed towards Wa Mountain City. The 5 God Realm powerhouses came out together and pointed their swords at Wa Mountain City. Chapter 326, Return. The Holy Spirit Sect's ruins were a residential palace. Although this palace had passed through an unknown number of years, it was not badly damaged, and after Qin Fan had cast his divine power, he had restored the place into quite a good palace for rest and cultivation. Qin Fan, does it have to be like this? Yushan asked shyly. Yushan posed a cultivation movement according to what was drawn within the heaven mending technique. This is a cultivation must, only then can we achieve the best cultivation effect. At this moment, Qin Fan, in the guise of a stern teacher, instructed Yushan to cultivate the heaven mending technique with him. But, this action is too strange and shameful. Yushan said shyly. This is cultivation, only by cultivating like this letting the heaven mending technique benefit the most, so it must be like this. Qin Fan said sternly. After saying that, Qin Fan forced Yushan to set up the standard cultivation movements and then instructed Yushan to cultivate. Qin Fan's instruction was naturally incisive, and for Yushan it was easy to understand at a single point. Boing! Yushan let out a sound under Qin Fan's instruction before gasping again. I feel that along with your guidance of each movement, the true qi is flowing in all parts of the body, making the whole body permeable. This will help you break through. Qin Fan responded, then stopped moving. What's wrong? I'm still a little bit short, it's already the tipping point, I feel like I'm about to break through. Yushan saw that she was about to make a breakthrough and Qin Fan suddenly stopped for a second, her rosy face penetrated with incomprehension as she looked at Qin Fan. You're about to break through, so you have to take the initiative to break through yourself. Qin Fan said, then assumed the cultivation posture of the heaven mending technique. When Yushan heard this and looked at Qin Fan's cultivation posture, her face became more and more red, but she knew that this was cultivation and she shouldn't think about anything else. Moreover, she had given up everything in order to catch up with Qin Fan. So taking the initiative was nothing. With that, she turned passive into active, and started cultivating in accordance with the heaven mending technique's operation of her body's true qi. Right, that's it, keep running the gong method and then make a breakthrough with a bang. Qin Fan noticed that Yushan had reached the threshold of breakthrough and immediately said, It's here, it's at the boundary. Suddenly, Yushan felt true qi rolling within her body, impacting her entire body, and at that moment, she tilted her head back, her long hair spreading out as she let out a voice, breakthrough. Along with her voice, true chi surged, instantly causing a breakthrough in her realm, the 3rd level of chi refining, the 4th level of chi refining, the 5th level of chi refining, all the way to the 9th level of chi refining. With this breakthrough, Yushan had broken through 7 consecutive layers, reaching the 9th level of chi refinement in an instant. The strength of the 9th level of chi refinement was already the topmost power amongst the sect masters on earth, and even many great sect masters would not be Yushan's opponent at this moment. And she had accomplished such an amazing breakthrough in the midst of a single cultivation session, because she was originally a 7 orifices Linglong body, excellent dual cultivation physique, and the yin-yang mending heavenly skill was almost tailor-made for her. And of course the most important thing was that Qin Fan's cultivation was at the late Yuaning realm. With Qin Fan's cultivation at the late Yuaning realm feeding Yushan, naturally, her cultivation would grow by leaps and bounds. It's time to consider building a foundation for Yushan. Firstly, we need the foundation building pill, and secondly, the foundation building method. The Heavenly Dao's 3 robberies to build a foundation will definitely not be able to withstand it, so Yushan can only settle for the next best thing, the 2nd or 1st robberies to build a foundation. Qin Fan felt the increase in Yushan's cultivation and thought in his heart. Of the 3 types of foundation establishment of heaven and earth, the Heavenly Dao 3rd Tribulation was naturally the strongest, but the difficulty of achieving the Heavenly Dao 3rd Tribulation foundation establishment was also extremely difficult and filled with the danger of death and extinction of the Dao, and it needed to be accomplished on one's own, so Qin Fan couldn't help, yet it was absolutely impossible to let her go through the Heavenly Dao 3rd Tribulation foundation establishment on her own, so Qin Fan could only settle for the 2nd best, the Heavenly Dao 1st Tribulation or the 2nd Tribulation. Even the 2nd Tribulation was very dangerous for Yushan. After all, Yushan's cultivation time was too short, and her accumulation was still not enough. Phew, all of a sudden it feels like my strength has increased so much. Yushan supported her petite body, her long hair hanging down, her face had an extremely good complexion, especially that pair of beautiful eyes exuded a strange light. Well, you've done very well. Qin Fan nodded and said. Then, what about you? Yushan sniffed and once again asked with some shyness. Me, I'm not bad either. Qin Fan laughed. In reality, because Yushan's cultivation level was low, the double cultivation for Qin Fan's cultivation enhancement was actually very little, almost negligible. However, this was just the beginning. As Yushan's cultivation continued to rise, the benefits Qin Fan gained after dual cultivation with her would also continue to rise. When Yushan heard this, she then guffawed, thinking, Qin Fan must be satisfied. It's already been 5 days here, right? It's time to go back. This time, Qin Fan said to Yushan. Aha. Yushan nodded, it's time to go back, or Auntie will be worried. With that, the 2 of them got up and organized themselves before walking out of the palace. After the 2 walked out of the great hall, the great snake that had transformed into a dragon that day immediately let out a chirping sound before its body leaned over to please the 2. These days, this great snake obediently guarded outside, waiting for the 2 to finish their cultivation. We're leaving, so stay here and transform the dragon. Yushan walked over and touched the huge snake head and said. The large snake seemed to understand Yushan's words, and was actually shaking its head, as if it would not let the 2 go. You big bug, still stay well to transform into a dragon, almost you can come to us. Qin Fan then used his divine sense to convey the message. Now that there was no more interference from the Chaos Pearl's great Tao fragment, he could use his divine sense to communicate with this big snake with spirituality. When the big snake received Qin Fan's divine sense message, its eyes looked at Qin Fan pitifully before emitting a low voice while also trying to use its spiritual power to communicate with Qin Fan. However, after all, this big snake was after all following the wild way of cultivation, the divine sense and spiritual communication was very obscure. Qin Fan also thought for half a day to finally understand what the big snake was thinking. You want to go out with us? Qin Fan was slightly stunned when he heard this. Big Snake nodded his head in a hurry. No, you're too big for me to carry, and I don't even know where to keep you when we go outside. Qin Fan said. This big snake that was about to turn into a dragon belonged to a spirit beast now, more than 50 meters long, 5 meters thick, coiled up to be a building. This brought out, I don't know how many people would be scared to death. Not only that, so big, Qin Fan do not know how to arrange this thing to go, this simply cannot hide. If he really brought it out, it would immediately become the center of attention, and he didn't know how many people would stare at such a large spirit beast. It's better for you to stay here obediently, cultivate well, and when you transform into a dragon, you can come and find us, Yushan comforted. Oh. The big snake lowered its head, aggrieved. All right, forget about it, we should go. Xin Fan said. Then, he left with Yushan, preparing to return to Wa Mountain City. Chapter 327 5 God Realm Powerhouses. The largest building within Wa Mountain City was originally owned by the witch god cult, however, at the moment, it had become a place for Catherine to do her work. Xin Fan had temporarily left for a few days, and after she had obtained the divine book, she had become the Wa Mountain City's city lord in charge of all affairs within the city. Because of Xin Fan's strong purges, the city became a lot colder than before, but with the people from the 5 southwestern families coming in, Wa Mountain City became lively once again. This made Catherine very pleased that she had gotten Xin Fan's instructions and was considered to have accomplished her task well. Only, at this moment, as she began to stand at the highest place, the elation on her face had vanished and was replaced by gravity. She looked intently at the city, because since yesterday, quite a few strong people had entered Yushan City, even including those various media from the west. She had been living in the west before and knew that wherever there was big news, these media would appear. And yesterday, there were quite a few cultivators who came, and there were also many media outlets, which made Catherine realize that something was likely to happen in Wa Mountain City. Miss Catherine, it seems like the situation is a bit bad. Yun Zhe walked over and Catherine said respectfully, how's it going? Why did these media and these cultivators suddenly come to Wa Mountain City? Catherine asked. Immortal Master Qin's consecutive killing of 3 God Realm powerhouses has caused the West to shake, so these Western forces want to find out the true body of Immortal Master Qin, so these people have come here because they want to see Immortal Master Qin. Yun Zhe immediately told what he had inquired about. Catherine's brows furrowed when she heard it. If it was just these cultivators, she wasn't worried, but for some reason, she always felt that something bad would happen. Qin Ku was here? Right at this moment, a golden light that ran through heaven and earth shot out from the mountains in the distance, cutting through the sky and appearing in the mid-air of Wa Mountain City. As the golden light dispersed, it was a middle-aged man of mixed blood with brown hair. The man appeared in a white golden robe like a judge. Levitating in the air, this is a God Realm powerhouse. In an instant, everyone in the city revealed a look of surprise, not expecting a God Realm powerhouse to descend. He's the same king of the Australian Holy Temple. Some Westerners recognized the visitor. Catherine's expression was slightly stunned when she saw the Holy King of the Australian Sanctuary appear. She naturally recognized this King of the Sanctuary. 10 years ago, it was rumored that he fought the 9th on the God ranking, hijack, and after that, he went into seclusion for 10 years, and I'm afraid that his strength is even stronger at this moment. However, Catherine was not worried. Xin Fan was not afraid of this same king, and she was carrying the divine book. She should be able to deal with this God Realm powerhouse, so she transmitted her voice to the sky, saying, King, if you are here to seek my master, I advise you, if you don't want to die, you should go back. Xin killed 3 God Realms in a row and is ranked 5th on the God ranking. He is indeed powerful, and I also admit that I am not as good as him. It's just that I am not the only one who has come this time. The king of the temple looked at Catherine and said solemnly. Not alone? Catherine's face was slightly startled at the words. And the crowd within Wa Mountain City similarly changed their faces. Surprisingly, more than one person had come. Bang 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 bang. At this very moment, a burst of terrifying roars came from the mountains in the distance, and there was even a burst of terrifying roars that came from the mountains, as if there was a ferocious beast running wildly in the mountains towards Wa Mountain City. Suddenly, a sound swept out from the mountains, just like a heavy artillery shell bursting out, and then smashed into the central square of Wa Mountain City. Boom! A booming sound came out, and then a terrifying force burst out, causing Wa Mountain City to vibrate, as if it had triggered a terrifying earthquake, shaking the crowd's bodies unsteadily. As the vibrations gradually subsided, a man with a somewhat thin figure walked out with his hands hanging down, then cracked his mouth, revealing sharp teeth, and asked with a strange smile, "Where is Qin?" "Magnum, it's Magnum." Someone cried out in shock the moment the man appeared. Magnum, a criminal who was considered extremely dangerous, was simply too famous, and anyone who worked in the media was bound to know how ferocious and terrifying this criminal was. I can't believe they let Magnum out. Catherine's face instantly changed after seeing Magnum. Ha, this Qin is really a center of attention, then I'll join in the fun. Suddenly, a sound of maniacal laughter came from the crowd, who then followed the sound and looked towards the source, only to see a Western man wearing a black cloth robe and reeking of alcohol, slowly walking towards the centered Black Emperor. Catherine's face changed when she saw this man appear, and her expression turned extremely grave. She had been living in the West before, so she naturally knew that this Black Emperor, who was the 3rd in the Killer Dark ranking, and his strength was bound to be in the top 10 of the God ranking. The crowd sucked in a breath of cold air when they heard where this person came from. This time, there were 3 God Realm powerhouses again, and they were even stronger than the previous 3. It was just that last time, the 3 God Realm powerhouses had already died at the hands of Qin, and these 3 could really deal with Qin, who was the 5th on the God ranking? The 3 of you alone are no match for the Master, so I advise you to get lost if you don't want to die. Catherine looked at these 3 God Realm powerhouses to calm their shock, then said, "A blood clan, who gave you the guts to be so rampant?" Only, just as Catherine's words fell, a stern and majestic cold voice came out. Accompanying this voice, a light blue light shot vigorously from afar, and the blue light broke the long sky and landed on top of the ground. In front of the crowd, a beautiful woman wearing blue armor and holding a long spear. "Valkyrie, Tessa Valkyrie." Catherine's face turned ugly when she saw the visitor. The Nordic Valkyries, as a blood clan, Catherine was too familiar with them, as the blood clan and the Valkyries that served the Nordic god Odin were mortal enemies, and this Tessa Valkyrie was likewise a God Realm powerhouse, another God Realm powerhouse, surprisingly a Nordic Valkyrie. For God Realm powerhouses have actually come this time. Many people, hearing Catherine's words, all sucked in a breath of cold air. Only, the moment the crowd was still shocked that 4 God Realm powerhouses had come out in unison, something white suddenly floated down from above the sky. "What's going on? Is this snow? Idiot, how can it snow here? It's feathers, it's angel feathers." These white things drifted down, and the crowd first thought that it was snow, but after it landed on their hands, they realized that it was actually white feathers, angel's feathers. Immediately after that, the crowd saw the clouds above the sky being plucked apart by a force, and an incomparably bright golden star fell from the sky to the ground. The crowd then saw a 6-winged angel appear in front of them. Catherine's complexion changed slightly as she looked at this angel. She didn't recognize this angel, but she could feel the power. God Realm, another God Realm powerhouse. Countless people looked at the angel that suddenly appeared and were instantly subdued. At this moment, there were actually 5 God Realm powerhouses arriving. Chapter 328, Catherine battles Valkyrie. 5 God Realm powerhouses gathered in Yushan City, truly shocking everyone. After the Second World War, God Realm powerhouses rarely came out of the world, and the appearance of the 4 God Realm powerhouses on top of Burma's Divine Mountain before had already shaken the entire world. It was just that no one had expected that this time, the main Divine Mountain was just the appetizer, and now was the main course. This time it was 5 God Realm powerhouses, and these 5 God Realm powerhouses were even stronger and more terrifying than those 3 from the Sorcerer God. The jaws of those who rushed to this place were staggered. "Ah, big news, really big news, this time I must film it." This time, the 5 great God Realm powerhouses have gathered, and this Qin's sudden appearance has truly shaken the world, only, this time, it should be difficult for him to survive. Many of the media and those who had rushed here let out murmurs. These people had more or less gotten the news that there would be powerful people coming to Wa Mountain City to meet Qin. But who would have thought that 5 Divine Realm powerhouses would appear at once, and the mere appearance of these 5 Divine Realm powerhouses was already a shocking piece of news. And now, these 5 people were going to join forces to target that Qin, which would definitely be a shocking battle that would surpass the Divine Mountain of Maine. When Catherine saw these 5 God Realm powerhouses appear, her already fair face turned as pale as paper. Even if she believed in Qin Fan's strength, she could not believe that Qin Fan could survive against these 5. These 5 great God Realm powerhouses were simply not comparable to the Witch God, Barbados, and Michael. Blood Clan, let Qin come out and accept God's sanction. Tessa Valkyrie opened her snow-white wings behind her back and her body slowly rose into the air, the silver-colored lance in her hand pointing straight at Catherine in a cold voice. Tessa Valkyrie was wearing a light blue armor, holding a lance, emitting a stream of sacred and overpowering breath release. That kind of aura shocked the crowd's feet soft. Eh? Tessa Valkyrie looked straight at Catherine waiting for her answer, only Catherine didn't answer, making her face turn icy cold. "If you don't call him out, then I will take you first." Blood Clan, Michael died at the hands of Kiss. I, Lucifil, will take his life this time to sacrifice Michael. Lucifil's golden pupils gazed at Catherine and said coldly, "Lucifil?" Catherine's pupils shrank when she heard this angel call himself Lucifer. The angel under God Lucifer was originally given the name of Dawn Star Lucifer, only for Lucifer to move towards the fall and become Hell Monarch Lucifer. And now this Hell Monarch Lucifer had climbed out of hell and returned to the side of the gods, becoming the Dawn Star Lucifer. The people were all horrified after realizing the identity of this angel. This was a terrifyingly strong person who was an angel and a demon all in one. "I didn't expect it, Lucifer, because Michael's death made you return to God's side from hell. Are you trying to avenge Michael?" The Holy King laughed after knowing the identity of this angel. That's right. Lucifer snorted coldly, then looked at Catherine and said, Blood race, let Qin roll out and I cannot kill you. At the moment he spoke, his body was covered in golden dawn starlight that shone, and that golden sacred power surged, shaking the surrounding houses, and even some of them began to collapse. When the people saw this scene, they all trembled, just releasing their breath like this. How strong was their strength? Hurry up, let Qin roll out, I'm starving, I want to eat him, I want to regain my freedom. Magna let out a sound of angry roar. Along with his voice, the house around him instantly collapsed. Hey, don't yell so loud, are you trying to scare this little blood to death? The Black Emperor fished out his ears and said in dissatisfaction. After saying that, he turned to Catherine and licked his lips. Catherine's figure and appearance were just too outstanding, making him all excited, so he said, Little blood, this time, our 5 God realm powerhouses are gathered. Qin won't have a chance of surviving. If you don't follow me, not only will I be able to keep you alive, I'll also be able to give you the ultimate enjoyment. The Black Emperor spoke frivolously, but his aura was extremely stern, causing Catherine's body to tremble slightly. She was truly no different from a mortal in front of the 5 great God realm powerhouses. If you guys don't want to die, you'd better get lost. However, Catherine's forcibly stabilized mind said tit for tat. In that case, I'll take you first. As soon as Tessa Valkyrie heard this, her stunning face instantly turned icy cold. Whoosh! In the next moment, she held a long spear and swept out as a blue light, killing Catherine. Scarlet Thunder! Without a moment's hesitation, Catherine let out a chant as the divine book appeared in her hand rumble. In an instant, blood light appeared above the divine book and transformed into blood-colored thunder slashing towards the Valkyrie. The only thing Catherine could think of now was to stall for time and wait for this Qin Fan's return. As for how Qin Fan would fare against the 5 God realm powerhouses, she had no idea. Scarlet Thunder roared out, transforming into a storm of thunder that swept through, immediately enveloping Valkyrie. This was Qin Fan's way of teaching her how to use the divine book, incorporating his own cultivation method to maximize the power of the divine book. Ha! Valkyrie faced the thunder that enveloped her as if it was a bloody snake and let out a bellowing cry. The lance in her hand made a sweeping motion, and instantly, ice crystals swept between them, clashing with the blood-colored thunder. Bang bang bang! All of a sudden, power exploded in the sky above, and the surrounding buildings that were affected collapsed. The others, on the other hand, frantically fled towards the outside. Catherine was not a God realm, but with Qin Fan's specialized God book in her hand, she was now a God realm powerhouse. In a battle between the God realm and the God realm, those below the God realm don't get involved as sending them to their death. Soon, the power dispersed and Valkyrie hovered in the air, her lance pointing at Catherine. Blood Clan, stealing the book of God, you deserve to die. Catherine looked at the Valkyrie with a grave gaze, and suddenly smiled and said, Could it be that you 5 great realms of gods are going to join forces against me? To deal with you, I alone am sufficient. Valkyrie said in a cold voice, I'll stick you on top of the Nibelungen sacred lance and let your master see the misery of your death. As for the other 4 God realm powerhouses, they then went into battle-watching mode, the 5 of them joining forces to deal with a blood race's Viscount would only drop the price. Catherine was relieved to see that the others didn't make a move. As long as she had the divine book in her hand, she would definitely be able to delay Qin Fan's return. Blood Clan, suffer death. Valkyrie let out a cold shout before charging towards Catherine. Catherine, on the other hand, had her divine book flipped once again and fought furiously with Valkyrie. Meanwhile, Qin Fan brought Yushan out from the underground. Phew, seeing the sky again. After Yushan came out, she looked up at the turquoise blue sky and revealed a smile. After spending 5 days entering the underground, her relationship with Qin Fan had changed and become intimate, especially those 3 days when she and Qin Fan were in dual cultivation. And when she thought of those 3 days when she had posed in various dual cultivation maneuvers, she felt so ashamed. It's time to go back. After being away for 5 days, I don't know if anything will happen on Catherine's side? Qin Fan said. Yushan nodded and naturally took Qin Fan's hand. Qin Fan glanced at Yushan and prepared to fly back to Wa Mountain City with her rumble. Only, the moment Qin Fan hadn't even taken off, the ground suddenly shook with a sound like an earthquake. What happened? Yushan was instantly startled. Qin Fan frowned slightly and looked ahead about 50 meters or so. Boom! Only a booming sound was heard, then the ground violently burst open and a snakehead as big as a locomotive rushed out. Chapter 329, Crunch. A snakehead that was bigger than a locomotive rushed out of the ground, then the huge snake body rushed out at an extremely fast speed, and a large snake that was over 50 meters long appeared above the ground. When Yushan saw the large snake that suddenly rushed out from the ground, her beautiful eyes stared blankly, one hand covering her mouth, with only shock on her face. How did it come out from there? Xin Fan was speechless when he saw the big snake that rushed out. This big bug was out of the ordinary. After the big snake rushed out, the snake's eyes turned to see Qin Fan and Yushan, and immediately swam towards Qin Fan and Yushan, then lowered its head and let out a low chirping sound, signaling the two to come up. Qin Fan it. Yushan looked towards Qin Fan. Obviously, Yushan knew that this big snake was bent on leaving the underground with the two. Qin Fan, on the other hand, looked at this big snake and pondered without answering. The snake looked at Qin Fan and did not respond, so it let out another whimpering sound. When Qin Fan saw this scene, he laughed and then said, "It's just that, if you want to follow me, you can follow me. There may not be any heavenly materials and earthly treasures under the ground that can help you completely transform into a dragon." The underground relics' heavenly treasures were basically all pretty much eaten by this snake. This snake wanted to complete the final transformation of the dragon, and if it stayed underground it most likely wouldn't be able to do so. Since this big snake was bent on following him, Qin Fan decided to accept it. The big snake seemed to understand Qin Fan's words and immediately let out a delighted chirping sound. When Yushan heard Qin Fan's words, she then reached out and touched the snake's head, saying, "Then you should be good from now on, don't scare people, and even more so, don't eat people at random." The big snake was still psychic and then nodded. "Go." Qin Fan then said, leading Yushan to jump onto the head of the big snake. Aang. The large snake let out a low dragon roar, then followed Qin Fan's instructions towards Hua Mountain City. This big snake was like a long high-speed train in the mountains, charging across the mountains, hitting the flying sand and rocks. Whatever rocks and trees that were in the way were all washed away by it, and it was extremely fast. Unfortunately, this snake can't fly yet. It would be perfect if it could. Qin Fan said with a smile as he sat on the head of the big snake with Yushan. "Qin Fan, do you want a name?" Yushan blinked and asked. "You take it." Qin Fan responded. "Just call it Little Green." Yushan immediately said. "You've thought of this already?" Qin Fan smiled at the words. "No way, you can see that it is green in color, so how appropriate to call it Little Green." Yushan said. "It's so big, it's still small?" Qin Fan laughed. "It's just big, its IQ is still that of a child, so it's called Little Green." Yushan said. "Alright, let's call it Little Green." Qin Fan nodded and said to the big snake. This big snake seemed to understand and let out an excited sound before its body violently curled up and then flicked with vigor. Boom! A booming sound came out, and Little Green's huge body then rose up into the air before flying through the air. "Wow, flying up, Little Green is flying up!" Yushan instantly shouted out in excitement at the sight. "You're gliding!" Qin Fan then said. Little Qing's realm was already at the God realm, counting it as the late stage of the God realm, and humans could fly at the God realm. However, Little Qing, because it was a demonic beast and had a huge body size, wanted to fly in the air for a long time as a human would definitely not be able to do. However, Little Qing borrowed the power of invoking the power of heaven and earth to allow himself to forcefully leap into the air, and then gliding in the sky for a period of time was not a problem at all. Aang! Above the sky, Little Qing let out yet another roar sound similar to a dragon's roar, seemingly saying to Qin Fan, "I can fly la. You're pretty good, just fly over in this direction." Qin Fan then spoke to Little Green. Xiao Qing's huge body glided and flew through the air, and if one looked at it from a distance, the first reaction would be a green dragon flying above the sky. Bang! After Little Qing glided and flew for more than 10 kilometers, his huge body landed back into the mountains, emitting a roaring sound before leaping away again, gliding in the air as well as at an extremely fast speed towards Hua Mountain City. Inside Hua Mountain City, the battle between Catherine and Tessa Valkyrie had already lasted for more than half an hour, as it was a battle at the God realm level, causing the central area of Hua Mountain City to be ruined for the most part. Only, Tessa Valkyrie still hadn't been able to take down Catherine. Damn it! Tessa Valkyrie's pretty face was icy cold and incomparable. As a late divine realm powerhouse, she couldn't even take down a Viscount's blood clan herself, which was a great shame for Hera. Viscount blood clan was a grandmaster realm cultivation. Even at its peak, the God realm would crush it with her hands. Yet, she had not been able to take down Catherine in a fierce battle for half an hour. That divine book originally belonged to Michael. How could it possess such a powerful force that allowed this blood clan to resist Valkyrie? Lucifer witnessed the whole thing and his face was tinged with surprise. That divine book in Michael's hand, in Lucifer's understanding, the divine book definitely couldn't reach the power that Catherine released at this moment. This power, at least tripled. Don't waste your time, I'll help you take down this blood clan and force out Qin. The king of the temple on the side was somewhat unable to watch this boring show and was ready to step in. No need, I'll take her down now. Just Tessa Valkyrie then said in a cold voice, facing a Viscount's blood clan and having to have two divine realms join forces to take it down. This was humiliation to her and would never be allowed to happen. And after Valkyrie's words fell, white feathered wings appeared behind her, 1 pair, 2 pairs, 3 pairs. In an instant, 3 pairs of pure white feathered wings appeared behind Valkyrie's back. As the 6 wings unfolded, blue-white light shone around her, and then the lance in her hand bloomed with a white divine radiance. Then, the 6 wings flapped and transformed into a pure white light that shot out like electricity. Catherine's face changed drastically. She knew that this Valkyrie was going to get real. Blood art, blood mist art. Catherine let out a whisper, her body then disappeared, turning into a cloud of blood mist, floating rapidly in the air, dodging the Valkyrie's pursuit and searching for an opportunity to unleash the divine book technique only. Catherine relied on this divine book to be able to fight with Valkyrie, but her true strength was only at the Grand Master level. Facing Valkyrie's full force pursuit, she instantly fell behind. The pure white light broke through the air and violently pierced through the blood mist, while Catherine's body then appeared. And at the moment Catherine's body manifested, her body was instantly bound by the white light and hovered in the air. Blood race, accept the Nibelungen's judgment. An ice-cold voice came out, only to see Tessa Valkyrie hovering 10 meters away from Catherine. And as her words fell, a pure white lance appeared out of thin air and then shot out violently. Clang! The lance violently pierced within Catherine's body. Ah! Catherine immediately let out a miserable scream. If it wasn't for the blood race's strong physical body, I'm afraid that under this gun, she would have already gone up in smoke. However, after this spear, a pure white spear once again appeared underneath Catherine, then turned into a stream of light and shot out, then crossed with the previous spear and stabbed into Catherine's body. Ah! Catherine once again let out a mournful and incomparable scream as blood gushed out wildly from within her body. It's over. Tessa Valkyrie's face was icy cold, raising the lance in her hand. This was the final judgment gun. Once it was fired, Catherine would definitely die. Catherine's eyes looked at Valkyrie in despair, and finally closed her eyes, lamenting in her heart, sure enough, if it's not the God Realm, it's not the God Realm. When the remaining 4 God Realm powerhouses saw this scene, they all nodded. It was over. Roar! Only, at this instant, a roaring sound that resounded through the 9 heavens came. It caused everyone to be startled. Tessa Valkyrie was the one who was the most shocked, as she saw an open, bloody mouth that bit her with a thunderous force. Eat her! And before the maw closed, she heard an indifferent and incomparable voice. Crunch! The instant the bloody mouth closed, a chilling chewing sound immediately came from it. Chapter 330, one word, mending. Little Green was just too huge. His body that was more than 50 meters long came across the sky, and then swallowed Tessa Valkyrie in one bite. This scene was just too shocking, so much so that everyone was all staring at Little Green with their jaws agape. Boom! It wasn't until the moment Little Green's gigantic body smashed down on the ground that the crowd was shocked back to their senses by the roaring sound that came from it. What kind of monster is this? Lucifer looked at Little Green with shock on his face. Is this a snake? It's just that. What's wrong with its head? It doesn't look like a snake. The king of the temple looked at Little Green with the same shock on his face. Where did this big snake come from? I've never seen such a big snake in the Amazon rainforest. Magnum looked at Little Green, feeling like his perception had been turned upside down. Within the Amazon rainforest, there were snakes everywhere. Magnum didn't know how many snakes he had seen, but he had never seen one as huge as Little Green. This is a snake demon, right? And what's with the aura emanating from it? It's the aura of the God Realm. This big snake, it's God Realm strength. The Black Emperor looked at Little Green in shock. And with these words from the Black Emperor, the media and those who had come to Wa Mountain City were once again shocked. God Realm, again? It's a great snake of the God Realm. My goodness, a great snake of the God Realm. There are already 6 God Realms in this Wa Mountain City. The people couldn't help but cry out in shock. God Realm again. 5 God Realms coming in one breath was already shocking enough, but as a result, another God Realm snake had now appeared, and everyone felt like their perceptions were about to collapse. When did the God Realm appear so worthless? There's someone on that snake's head. At this moment, someone suddenly exclaimed out in shock. At this moment, Little Green stood up its huge body from the midst of the smashed-out pit, while its head was occupied by Qinfan and Yushan as well as Catherine, who was being held in Qinfan's hands. However, because they didn't want to get involved in the battle between the God Realms, other than those God Realm powerhouses, all the others hid in the distance, thus only the figures were seen. There was no way to see Qinfan's real face. Quickly, find a way to get closer, make sure to film it. That person on the snake's head, could it be Qin? After many media found out, they went a little out of their way and wanted to get closer to film Qinfan's real face. At this moment, Qinfan was holding Catherine and looking at her. As for Catherine, even though she had a strong physical body, she was already dying after enduring Valkyrie's 2 attacks. Her silver-colored pupils looked at Qinfan somewhat listlessly, her mouth moving as if she wanted to say something. "Speak after you recover," Qinfan said as he looked at Catherine. And at the moment he spoke, white rays of light shone above his hands. These rays of light flickered and slowly flowed into Catherine's body, allowing her body to recover quickly at a speed visible to the naked eye. Catherine's injuries were all to her physical body as well as her internal organs, with no higher-level divine soul injuries involved, and Qinfan's execution of the Yuan stage's recovery avatar naturally had a miraculous effect. Soon, Catherine recovered under Qinfan's divine ability, and she immediately got down from Qinfan's hands and said, "Master, it's my incompetence." "It's nothing, you've done a great job in being able to hold back 5 powerhouses of God Realm strength by yourself," Qinfan said to Catherine. Catherine smiled at his words, followed by a hint of a smile. "Woo!" Suddenly, Little Green continuously let out a low sound, and then its body swung, while its mouth had a light blue light flickering in it, which seemed to be about to rush out of its mouth. "Valkyrie isn't dead, strike," the King of Sanctuary said immediately when he noticed the change that appeared in Shao Qing's mouth. And the other 3 nodded. God Realm powerhouses were already difficult to be killed, and wanting to bite a God Realm powerhouse to death was absolutely impossible in the eyes of Lucifer and these people. And right now, Tessa Valkyrie was, at this moment, resisting, so as long as the 4 of them made a move, they would definitely be able to save Valkyrie immediately. The 4 of them prepared to strike. Not obediently being eaten, but even attempting to resist. Only, at this moment, Qinfan's indifferent voice rang out. Along with Qinfan's voice rang out. He immediately released a mana that instantly suppressed the Valkyrie while attempting to resist, and that light blue light then disappeared. "Eat her." And after the suppression, Qinfan then said. Little Cheng understood, and immediately chewed, continuously emitting a crunchy sound. After chewing for a few mouthfuls, Little Cheng then opened his mouth and spat out a long spear in tattered blue armor. Crackle! A messy landing sound came out, startling those present into stupefaction once again. "Eaten?" The king of the temple returned to his senses, and there was no way to describe the look on his face. How could it be, just eaten? Lucifer was also shocked. The Black Emperor and also Magnum did the same, their faces stunned and incredulous afterward. It wasn't that the 4 didn't know how strong the flesh of a God Realm powerhouse was, and how it could withstand an ICBM attack. However, right now, a God Realm powerhouse, Valkyrie, Tessa Valkyrie had just been hardened by a large snake and swallowed into her stomach, leaving behind only the inedible armor and lance. Roar! After Little Green swallowed the Valkyrie, he violently let out a roar. This roar contained a powerful impact, and a shockwave visible to the naked eye swept in all directions with it as the center, and wherever it passed, the ground crumbled and houses collapsed. Those onlookers frantically fled outwards. Once they were caught up in it, I'm afraid that they would only die. The strength of this snake, it's actually in the late divine realm. The king of the sanctuary's heart trembled a little as he endured Little Green's power. Can't be wrong, it's already in the late divine realm. I really don't know where the monster appeared from, Lucifer said with a gloomy expression. The God realm is divided into 4 stages: before, during, after, and also consummation. The 4 of them, except for Lucifer, were actually all in the middle stage of the God realm. As for Shao Qing's strength, it was the late stage of the God realm, and this strength was bound to be the best within the God realm. I knew you were a gluttonous snake. And when Qinfan heard Shao Qing's growl, he immediately laughed and said. This growl of Little Green was a sound made from excitement because it had eaten a God realm powerhouse. As a snake, Little Qing was able to go to the stage where he was about to transform into a dragon, not by cultivation, but by eating. The Holy Spirit sex relics were bound to have a large amount of heavenly materials and treasures, and Little Green had eaten those heavenly materials and treasures cleanly over thousands of years to get to this point. Don't think it's easy to get to this point. Those heavenly treasures are not necessarily all spiritual medicine, spiritual grass, which there are also a large number of poisonous substances, and even poisonous things, eat on the spot on the death, but Xiaoqing all to eat, not only survived, and grow to this stage of the dragon will soon be transformed. It can be seen how strong Xiaoqing's flesh is. I'm afraid that there is nothing in this world that it dares not eat and cannot eat. And now, it ate a God Realm powerhouse. God Realm powerhouse, after thousands of hammering and refining the flesh as well as the body, contains a powerful force. For a long time have not eaten heavenly herbs and geomantic treasures. Xiaoqing on a word, fill. This supplement, how not to let Xiaoqing excited because in the distance, there are 4 more great tonic. Okay, I'll catch them all and feed them to you. Qin Fan grinned and said. P.S. Update a chapter first, come back a little late, during the daytime and the update of the latter chapter. Chapter 331, Fist of 5 Elements, crush all of them. I'll feed all 4 of these to you. Qin Fan turned his head to look at the 4 Luciferians and said with his hands in his pockets, grinning at the 4. And it was only at this moment that these 4 people saw Qin Fan's true face. You are that Qin? Lucifer then asked. Yes, I am the Qin you are looking for. Qin Fan said indifferently. I didn't expect you to have raised such an extraordinary snake. The king of the temple gazed at Qin Fan and said. Don't worry, this gluttonous snake, who is still waiting to eat you all, will not strike. Qin Fan said to the king of the sanctuary. You are really confident. We died Valkyrie, worrying that we might not be able to win if you teamed up with the snake, but now you are cutting off your own arm. Upon hearing this, Magnum grinned, revealing sharp fangs. Looks like after today, I'll be free. Your flesh is very good, it's complimentary to Xiaoqing. Qin Fan looked at Magnum and said indifferently. I received a large sum of money, so I can only come to kill you, and I can only blame you for being too valuable. The Black Emperor said as he gazed at Qin Fan. And at the moment when the Black Emperor's words fell, the 4 Lucifers moved at the same time, their bodies swept out and in 4 directions, 4 powerful breaths instantly locked onto Qin Fan. The 4 God Realm powerhouses' breaths were released, and the 4 powerful breaths were like monstrous waves sweeping through Wa Mountain City, and the entire Wa Mountain City shook with them, with countless houses collapsing. The faces of those who had come to Wa Mountain City immediately turned pale. It was at this moment that these people realized what the God Realm was and what a mortal was. And when Xiaoqing saw this, immediately her body moved as well, as if she wanted to help Qin Fan. Stay well and wait for the tonic. Qin Fan nodded his feet, signaling little Qing to wait at ease. At the moment Qin Fan's words fell, he took a step and left Xiaoqing's head in a flash, sweeping into the air. Not good. The moment Qin Fan took a step out, the faces of the 4 God Realm powerhouses all changed. Not only did all 4 of them change, that person watching the battle was also stunned. The 4 God Realm powerhouses' powerful breathlock was so strong that it was like a heavily net locking Qin Fan. A normal person wouldn't even dare to move his fingers for fear of touching the lightning and shattering his body. However, Qin Fan just like this easily stepped out a step, suspended into the void, instantly letting the locking breath of those 4 God Realm powerhouses crumble, and even instantly turned against them, suppressing the 4 of them. Do it! The 4 were shocked by the aura released by Qin Fan, almost spitting out blood, and that king of sanctuary immediately shouted. Boom! That extremely dangerous criminal, Magnum, took the lead. One could only see his aura erupting violently as if he was a silent volcano, and then he raised his hand and threw a fierce punch. A fist blasted out, invoking the Yuan power of this heaven and earth, while a fist as big as a truck appeared. This is the Bagua Jujitsu, Earth Demon Fist. Back then, with a single punch, he blew up 7 tanks in Magnum, and nearly 1,000 soldiers were instantly killed. Some people had already seen that this punch performed by Magnum was the ultimate in Bagua Jiu-Jitsu, and a single blast was enough to destroy a mountain peak on the Black Emperor's body. At this moment, a black aperture unexpectedly appeared, and these black apertures instantly flew out in towards Qin Fan. These black apertures rotated and flew like chainsaws, cutting through everything, flying through the air. It even felt like even the air was being cut. Clang! And the king of the temple's entire body's golden aura erupted out, and in his hand suddenly appeared a golden long knife. The moment this knife appeared, then immediately chopped in the air. Instantly, a bright and incomparable golden knife light shot out. This golden knife light is like golden thunder shot out, after the first to arrive, in an instant swept hundreds of meters away, chopping road in front of Qin Fan's body. The power of this knife was like cutting through the air, sharp and incomparable. Lucifer, on the other hand, raised his hands above his head, and a golden divine radiance immediately showered down in the sky above Wa Mountain City, while the clouds above the sky dispersed. A golden meteorite star appeared from within the clouds and smashed down towards Qin Fan. This is the strongest divine star magic of the angels under God, the Dawn Star. Many people could not help but exclaim in shock when they saw a brilliant golden star smashing down above the sky. These 4 people did not have a single ounce of reservation as soon as they struck, sending out a killing move that was meant to completely snuff out this crossbreed Qin. And the combined attack of these 4 God Realm powerhouses could only be described as earth-shattering in its might, and the faces of the crowd hiding in the distance to watch the battle changed. Yushan was also scared pale as paper as she looked at this might, and was worried beyond measure about Qin Fan. Catherine was the same. These 4 God Realm powerhouses were too powerful. She even felt that this was the strongest strike of the world. Xiao Qing's pair of snake eyes were glaring. It couldn't wait to rush up to help Qin Fan, but it didn't dare to disobey Qin Fan's order. Too strong, just too strong. These 4 people are joining hands. This Qin is really in danger. If that God Realm Great Serpent had attacked together, there might have been a chance of survival, but now, this Qin, I'm afraid he has no chance of winning. Those who were watching the battle were also shocked at the moment by the 4 of them joining hands to send out an earth-shattering attack. With this kind of attack, I'm afraid that only the top 4 of the divine rankings joining hands would be able to surpass this kind of terrifying strike in front of them only, or in this world could a strong person exist that was worthy of allowing the top 4 of the God ranking to join forces. Right now, these 4 God Realm powerhouses could truly be called the strongest strike in the world. Facing the monstrous fist, as well as the bizarre black circle of light, the extremely sharp golden blade, and the smashing down of the Dawn Star. It seems that you guys know nothing about power. Qin Fan spat out slowly with a bland face in the face of the 4 powerhouses joining forces. Now I will let you see the power of the 5 elements, so that you can open your eyes and understand what is meant by power. After Qin Fan finished speaking, he pulled his right hand out of his pants pocket and then blasted out a fist in the air. This fist blasted out with a volatile 5 elemental mana, transforming into a radiant fist print, and within this fist print, there was a blazing fire burning, a furious wave roaring, thick earth rolling, a green giant tree growing, and even more indestructible gold and iron weapons changing. Dang. Qin Fan's fist blasted out in the air. It seemed to be ordinary, but it contained the changes of the power of the 5 elements. One punch, destroying and destroying. The sky was shaken, and some people even felt that the sky appeared to have cracks similar to glass shattering under this fist. Under Qin Fan's punch, Magnum's fist mark immediately shattered and dissipated, while he was shaken and spat out blood furiously, and even more so, he was shocked that his heart veins were shattered, and even with extreme recovery power, he was unable to recover in a short period of time. The Black Emperor's black light chop was affected by the waves of the 5 elements fist deity and immediately crumbled, while his body was shocked and smashed into the ground. The Temple King's radiant blade aura, on the other hand, shattered in an instant, and even the golden-colored long blade shattered, while the Temple King was even spitting out blood as he was shocked and smashed into the ground. And Lucifer called out to the Dawn Star is broken apart, cracked into countless gravel, and then lit up the flame, and finally dissipated. And Lucifer's was also shaken and shot backwards towards the distance. Hiss! The crowd sucked in a breath of cool air when they saw Qin Fan crush everything under just one punch. How could this Qin be so terrifying? Chapter 332 Divine Ranking Revealed. Too strong, really too strong. With a single punch, he broke the joint strike of the 4 great God Realm powerhouses. Simply unbelievably strong. I'm afraid that this is already the state of God Realm perfection, or even the limit. Many of the people who came here were cultivators, and these had been shocked by the power of Qin Fan's punch to the point where they felt that their cultivation perceptions had collapsed. As for those mortals, those media people, those who were injured by the wave of breath emanating from Qin Fan's punch were injured and fainted. And Lucifer, the Black Emperor, the king of the temple and Magnum 4 people, at this moment all the whole body wounded lying on the ground, face in addition to the pain, more is shocked. 4 people together, and 4 people as a full attack. The result was Qin to a punch toppled. They came here, the 5 God Realm powerhouses gathered. This has been on the Qin to do the limit of overestimation, but did not expect, this Qin the strength of the incredibly strong, but also to the point of terror to the extreme. You, what exactly is your origin? How can you be so strong? Lucifer got up with difficulty, his eyes staring at Qin Fan as he asked. He really couldn't believe that such a character had appeared in Xiaowen. No wonder, this Qin was considered by the Hall of Gods to be an anomaly that affected the momentum of the entire world. Qin Fan looked at Lucifer and naturally did not answer his question, but raised his hand in the air and grabbed it. Lucifer's face changed as he felt an incomparably powerful force coming in to pull him over, and then he tried to break free with all his might. However, it was useless as his body flew violently towards Qin Fan before he was clutched by Qin Fan's neck. Little Cheng follows, replenish your body. Xin Fan let out a faint smile after he clutched Lucifer, then he raised his hand and flung Lucifer out. In flight, Lucifer wanted to make a resistance, but realized that his body was locked by a force, and he could only allow himself to fly towards Little Cheng. Seeing Lucifer being thrown over, Little Green's eyes lit up, his body moved, opened his mouth, and took a bite into Lucifer. Ah! A miserable scream came, and that heart-palpitating crunching sound came, and then, there was the gurgling sound of swallowing, as Lucifer was bitten by Little Green and swallowed into his stomach. Hiss! Those who were still conscious couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air when they saw the scene. Another God Realm powerhouse had been swallowed by that big snake again. The king of the temple, the Black Emperor, and also Magnum's scalp instantly tingled when they saw this scene, knowing that the odds were that this was what would happen to them next as well. I have only taken up the mission, I have no grievances with you, you can completely spare me, and when the time comes, I can accomplish anything for you, including helping you can kill anyone. The Black Emperor could only utter a plea for mercy in the face of Xin Fan. However, Xin Fan simply ignored it, and with a flash immediately came to the Black Emperor's side, lifting his foot and kicking out. The Black Emperor was instantly kicked up by Xin Fan, and in the middle of the road, Little Green leaped over, and then bit the Black Emperor into his mouth with a mouthful, and again, there was a palpitating crunching sound. The third God Realm powerhouse was eaten again. Xin Fan turned his head towards the king of the temple, whose face had already turned white. You will surely be punished by the gods for doing this. The king of sanctuary shuddered as he was looked at by Xin Fan and said in a stern voice, divine punishment? Xin Fan laughed coldly, if the god in your mouth comes, I will behead the god. After saying that, Xin Fan lifted his hand and grabbed the Saint King in his hand, then like Lucifer, he threw it to Little Green. Little Green directly gave it a mouthful to swallow. Can you run away? Xin Fan, on the other hand, looked at Magnum and said, then took a step forward. Magnum's physical body was extremely strong in recovery, and just now, he took the opportunity to recover and had already fled towards the distance, and in just over 10 seconds had already run 1,000 meters away. Unfortunately, he had long been locked by Xin Fan's divine sense and could not run at all. The reason why Xin Fan wanted to leave Magnan at the end was because Magnan's flesh was the strongest and most complementary to Shao Chang. The good stuff, it was left to be eaten at the end. Xin Fan took just one step and appeared in front of Magnan. When Magnan saw Xin Fan appear in front of him, he wanted to open his mouth to beg for mercy, only, Xin Fan had already kicked out. Bang! A sound came out, and Magnan was instantly sent flying towards the sky by Xin Fan's kick. The moment it flew into midair, Shao Qing's huge body leapt forward, opened its mouth, and then violently swallowed Magnan in one bite. Crunch! Little Green chewed on Magnum before swallowing it. Hiccup! After swallowing it in, it even let out a satisfied burp. This caused the crowd to have a vicious chill. This big snake was simply too damn ruthless. Today, it had eaten 5 God Realm powerhouses. As for Xin Fan, when he saw Shao Cheng swallow Magna, his body leaped and instantly jumped onto Shao Cheng's head. Aang! Little Green immediately let out an excited sound, as if saying, today is really too good, it's been a long time since I ate something so delicious. Those who don't want to be eaten get lost. And then, a faint voice from Xin Fan rang out. This voice, which spread throughout the entire place, caused the others' bodies to tremble for a moment before they frantically fled, and if they stayed any longer, they would truly become the rations of that big snake. Xin Fan! Master! Soon, Xin Fan returned to the center of the city, and Catherine and Yushan immediately ran over, looking at Xin Fan with only shock. Originally, they thought that it would be a bitter battle for Xin Fan to face the 4 great God Realm powerhouses, but as a result, Xin Fan had resolved it with a light touch. Immortal Master Qin. At the same time, the people from the 5 southwestern great families gathered around and looked at Xin Fan as if they were looking at a god. Xin Fan nodded to the crowd and then said, "This city seems to be rebuilt." This battle was a breeze for Xin Fan, but this Yuan mountain city was a disaster, and at this moment, it had been mostly destroyed. Don't worry, Immortal Master Qin, we will rebuild this city. Gao Wendy immediately stepped forward and said. That's fine, wait until it's rebuilt and then change it to Heavenly Qin City. Xin Fan nodded and said. Yes. The crowd immediately responded in unison upon hearing this. The battle in Yuan Mountain City ended when 5 God Realm powerhouses became the rations of a large snake. And the outcome of this battle was bound to shake the entire world once again. After all, it was 5 God Realm powerhouses that had fallen. The world hadn't seen any God Realm powerhouses fall for an unknown number of years, but now in less than a month's time, 8 had already fallen. How could this not shock people? And all of this was bound to make those old monsters hidden in the shadows, all unable to sit still. Sure enough, the day after the battle in Yuan Mountain City, the world's networks were filled with all sorts of news. One of the most notable was a photo released by Jiang Hu Baishao. This photo was naturally a god-ranking photo. At this moment, the person who ranked first on the god ranking was no longer that god, but rather Qin Xian. Chapter 333, World Shock, Supreme God Realm. Qin Xian, these 3 words imprinted on top of the god ranking immediately caused the World Wide Web to explode, with countless people wanting to know what was going on. Who exactly is Qin Xian? It's only been a short while, and he's already number 1 on the god ranking. Last time he was still 5th on the god ranking. This has gone by for less than a month and he's already ascended to number 1 on the god ranking. Are you kidding me? Who the hell is this person? Do you guys know? Why does it feel like he came out of nowhere? What exactly happened there in Yuan Mountain City? It made him go straight from 5th to number 1 on the god ranking. The entire network was constantly discussing this newly promoted divine ranking number 1 powerhouse, Qin Xian, because it was just too fast. In less than a month's time, he had rushed from 5th to number 1 on the divine ranking. One must know that the god ranking hadn't been updated since the second battle, but as a result, in just less than a month's time, it had been updated twice. The reason for both was this person called Qin Xian. How could this not shock cultivators all over the world? This also made many people wonder what was going on. How exactly did this Qin Xian manage to, in less than a month's time, ascend to number 1 on the divine ranking? Because, right here in Yuan Mountain City, this Qin Xian killed 5 god realms in a row. No, he didn't kill 5 god realms in a row. He took a 5 god realm powerhouse and fed it to his pet, a god realm great snake demon. With the entire internet wondering what exactly Qin Xian had done, a person who had witnessed the battle posted the reason why. Crap, fed 5 god realm powerhouses to his pet? Are you kidding me? He also raised a great snake demon of god realm strength. Are you really right? Impossible, absolutely impossible. How is it possible? 5 god realm powerhouses are no match for Qin Xian. Many people didn't believe this sudden news at all because it sounded too fake. There's a video this time, and it's a video of the whole thing. Only, that person who released the news sent out a message. There's a video? And it's a video of the whole thing. Hurry up and send it out. Right, no pictures, no truth. Countless people on the internet were exclaiming, wanting to see the video of the entire process this time. And that person immediately released the first video. Once this video was released, it was like a nuclear explosion that shook the entire world. Crap, what a way to go! Such a beautiful woman's was just swallowed in one bite. Eaten, only armor and weapons left. This big snake in the end, what the hell is it? Also too big. Countless people felt their hearts explode when they saw Shao Cheng swallow the Valkyrie in one bite. It was just too shocking, a god realm powerhouse being eaten just like that. This is just the beginning, the shock comes later. The person who released the video immediately said. He then released a second video. And as soon as this second video was released, the entire internet almost boiled over. Everyone felt like they were watching a sci-fi movie. Oh my god, what is this? Is this a special effects movie? After countless people watched the second video, they were all shocked and sucked in a breath of cool air. I read less, you don't lie to me. This is a special effects movie. This is too exaggerated. Right, if this is real, this world is afraid to turn upside down. Many people were shocked beyond belief after watching the video. Almost within a very short period of time, these videos and many photos spread throughout the entire network. Facebook, Twitter, Oil Turtle, blogs, Shake. The number of people who watched them quickly exceeded 1 million, 10 million, and went straight to hundreds of millions of plays. That man in the center of the video is Qin Xian, and the people who fought with Qin Xian. I've already gathered all the information. Those are all big-name God Realm powerhouses in the world, stronger than those God Realm powerhouses in the Divine Mountain of Mengwo, only stronger and not weaker. The person who had released the video was obviously an extremely professional journalist who had gathered information on the 5 major God Realm powerhouses who had fought Qin Xian: Nordic Valkyrie, Tessa Valkyrie, Australian Temple King Maurice Kent, the 3rd-ranked Black Emperor Raider of the Dark List, the extremely dangerous criminal Magnum, and the combination of demons and angels with the Dawn Star Lucifer. These 5 are all outstanding among the God Realm. But even after joining forces, they were still overturned by Qin Xian with a single punch. This professional reporter had thoughtfully explained the video. Countless people felt their perceptions of the world collapse when they saw the content of the video. Crap, a strike from 4 people joining hands, look at that, What is that? The surrounding buildings collapsed in an instant. I feel like this doomsday is coming, right? What kind of doom and gloom is this? Look at the punch that Qin Xingshan threw. See, I feel like the sky has been shattered. Yeah, I felt like the sky really cracked like glass when that punch was thrown. Too terrifying, just too terrifying. No wonder a single punch overturned 4 people joining forces. This Qin Xingshuan's strength is simply unbelievably strong. This is truly invincible in the divine realm. First place is well deserved. Countless people sighed after watching the video. Qin Xingshuan's god realm is invincible. The first in the god ranking is well deserved. Why can't you still see Qin Xingshuan's face? Why don't you get closer to shoot? However, many people let out looks of disbelief after watching the video, as the video still failed to see Qin Xingshuan's true face. It's already 9 deaths for me to be able to film it. Only those who have experienced it know how terrifying it was at that time. If I were to get a little bit closer and merely be affected by the waves, I'm afraid I would have died on the spot. That professional reporter released the news. It wasn't that he didn't want to film Qin Xingshuan's true face, it was that he simply couldn't get closer. Once he did, he would surely die. Zhang Chang, Lin Qingyan's villa. Lin Qingyan was busy with her work for a day, and after coming back, she directly plopped down on the sofa, and then said with a face full of grudges, "This Qin fan left again without saying a word, and he didn't even pick up the phone, he doesn't even know what he's doing." Miss, have you watched this video? And at this moment, Auntie Wang hurriedly ran over with the tablet and said to Lin Qingyan, "What's wrong?" Lin Qingyan looked at Auntie Wang with some confusion. Auntie Wang usually didn't watch these videos. "Miss, divine battle, it's divine battle, and I look like little fan," Auntie Wang said to Lin Qingyan. Upon hearing this, Lin Qingyan dodged the tablet computer and looked at the video that came out. Her face was filled with shock. "This isn't a movie?" "No, absolutely not. Miss, look at the person in that video. I can't see it, but I feel like Xiao Fan," Auntie Wang said to Lin Qingyan. Lin Qingyan stared at the blurry figure. The figure was blurry, but there was a feeling that this was Qin Fan. Could it really be Qin Fan? He ran away to Burma? However, this is too exaggerated. Lin Qingyan's beautiful eyes flashed, her face filled with shock. Summer country, Hangshan Film City. "Look, Shui, the internet has spoken out about the gods." Xie Shudong ran into a lounge holding a tablet and said to a Xiang Xue, "Sister Shu Ton, let me sleep, I only slept for an hour yesterday while filming." Xiang Shui was lying on the bed like a lazy pig. She was busy shooting a new movie a few days ago, not to mention cultivating. She didn't even have time to rest. Forget it, you have a good rest after filming this new movie. Xie Shudong looked at Xiang Shui's appearance. A burst of laughter also did not bother Xiang Shui. "There's no rest even after filming. I still have to go to the Central Media Academy of Xia to further my studies." "Brother Qin, where have you been?" The phone does not answer. Xiao Shui do not want to shoot a movie, too tired. Xiang Shui lying on the bed, a burst of grudging shouted, and then fell asleep again. Xiaogua, Zhengdu, Jade Palace. Qin Ziyang looked at the video Wei Hong handed over, only shock on his face. "Palace Master, this Qin Xingshan has a high probability of being Admiral Qin, right?" Wei Hong asked. Qin Ziyang nodded and said, "It's really something. I'm afraid Admiral Qin is the supreme god realm, invincible within the god realm." Wei Hong was stunned in his heart upon hearing this supreme strength god realm, Qin Xingshan. Is this admiral rank still worthy of him? Michigan, White Palace. The god was still a white figure. Looking to President Bai, she said, "Immediately mobilize the forces that can be mobilized to find out Qin Xingshan. This person greatly threatens the course of history, must be taken seriously." Lord God, I have ordered to mobilize all forces. If necessary, we'll use nuclear bombs, or even the ultimate black technology weapons, President Bayashi said. Not only in Milky Way, but also in the Europa League as well. For this transfers, Qin Xingshan decided to treat him at the highest level of danger, and could even use those forbidden weapons. After all, Qin Xingshan was recognized as a supreme god realm after this battle. Chapter 334, Building a City. Hua Mountain City. The entire Hua Mountain City was almost half destroyed after Qin Fan's battle with the 5 great god realms. However, this was a good thing for Qin Fan. Hua Mountain City was at the border between Xia and Myanmar, belonging to the zone of unregulated areas, and after this battle, it was even more unlikely that any force or country would intervene in Hua Mountain City. Therefore, Qin Fan decided to turn Hua Mountain City into his own city and renamed it Tianqin City. Since it was going to be rebuilt, so Qin Fan decided to make a big effort to build Tianqin City to have a big formation, making it an impregnable city of cultivators. As for the Flying Rainbow Mountain in Jiangchang, after the construction of the heavenly Qin city was completed, he could completely move it over using the power of great divine power. Yuaning realm cultivators, moving mountains and reclaiming the sea was not a difficult task. It was just that after Qin Fan gave his plans, it made the 5 southwestern clans dumbfounded all of a sudden. This was because Qin Fan's planning required money that could only be described as astronomical, as the materials used were precious, and not only were they precious, many of them had never even been heard of. This was already beyond what the 5 southwestern clans could afford. However, fortunately, Qin Fan said that he would solve most of the money problems, and only then did the people of the 5 southwestern great families feel quite at ease. As for, after Tianqin City was completed, the people of the 5 great families anticipated that it would definitely be a city beyond imagination. All of this was what made the people of the 5 great families in the southwest feel relieved and at ease to build it according to Qin Fan's requirements. Tianqin City, Qin Fan's temporary resting residence. Qin Fan naturally thought of 2 people, Zhang Qinglian and Lu Ziyan, in order to solve the problem of funds. Zhang Qinglian is now the president of the Tianqin Group, and the Tianqin Company sells the unique evergreen liquid and reddish liquid on the market. The profit Qin Fan has not paid much attention to, but definitely will not be low. As for Lu Ziyan, that was in control of more than $300 billion in assets. These 2 should be able to solve the funding problem. Therefore, Qin Fan then called Zhang Qinglian first. "You're willing to call me?" As soon as he got through to Zhang Qinglian's phone, the sultry voice of Zhang Qinglian immediately came through. When Qin Fan heard this voice, he could only be helpless. He really hadn't contacted Zhang Qinglian for a long time, so he consoled Zhang Qinglian with a few words while saying that he would go back to Zhang City to give Zhang Qinglian a reward. Only then did Zhang Qinglian raise her eyebrows and smile, then asked, "Lord Qin Qingxian, what is it that you are contacting me about this time?" "Qin Qingxian?" Qin Fan froze when he heard Zhang Qinglian's words. "What's going on? Where did this name come from? Don't you know? The internet is full of videos of Qin killing a great god realm powerhouse in a great battle in Hua Mountain City." After that, the god ranking was released, and the number 1 was Qin Qingxian. "If I guess correctly, this person should be you?" Zhang Qinglian asked. Zhang Qinglian had naturally watched this fiery video, and Qin Qingxian, she vaguely guessed in her heart that Qin Qingxian was Qin Fan. Qin Fan was silent for a moment when he heard the name. In the immortal cultivation realm, a cultivator would have a title after stepping into the Yuaning realm, such as Daoi Zhenjun, while Qin Fan's Yuaning realm title was Qingxian Zhenjun. The title was Qingxian of the Qingxian astronomical domain, implying that he was the first person in the Yuaning realm within the Qingxian astronomical domain. However, after coming to Earth, Qin Fan had never revealed his title of True Monarch Qingxian, and the divine ranking even revealed his title of True Monarch Qingxian, named Qin Qingxian. This made Qin Fan curious about the Xian sect's divine ranking. Tisk, tsk, tisk. Just at the moment when Qin Fan was silent, Zhang Qinglian suddenly heard strange water sounds from Qin Fan's side. "What are you doing right now? Why is there this strange sound?" Zhang Qinglian asked oddly when she heard the sound of water that seemed like it was coming from licking something. "Right now, I'm instructing the 2 to cultivate, and they are currently actively cultivating." Qin Fan said as he glanced down and saw that Catherine and Yushan were cultivating in accordance with the yin-yang tonic. On the other end of the phone, Zhang Qinglian froze for a moment when she heard Qin Fan's words. She always felt that the voice was somewhat like that kind of voice, only that Qin Fan said it was 2 people, which made Zhang Qinglian feel that something was not right. Could it be that Qin Fan was traveling in 3s? Hiss. Suddenly, Qin Fan sucked in a breath before praising, "Catherine, you did a great job." "Many thanks for the compliment, Master." Immediately afterward, Catherine's charming voice came out. After the battle with the Valkyrie, Catherine felt that her strength was too weak. Even with the divine book in her hand, she was still too weak, so she was bent on getting guidance from Qin Fan to improve her strength. And Qin Fan thought about it. Apart from the blood demon ninefold transformation, the heaven mending skill was obviously extremely useful for Catherine to enhance her strength. Instructing Yushan was also instructing, and instructing Catherine was also instructing, so he simply instructed both of them together. Although, at first, Yushan was a bit unable to accept it, but Qin Fan had said that it was cultivation and that she could not think too much about it, and in the end, Yushan also got into the mood. Thus, Qin Fan took advantage of the break in pointing out cultivation to make a call to Zhang Qinglian. ZZ. Another watery sound came. Zhang Qinglian froze. She felt as if it was the sound of something sliding into the crowded canal. She blushed and asked, "Qin Fan, what is this cultivation of yours?" "Cultivation is cultivation," Qin Fan said in a very serious manner. With that, he glanced at Yushan before nodding his head, signaling Yushan to run her gong methods and continue cultivating. Yushan was already at the 9th level of qi refining and needed to build her foundation. The foundation building pill was naturally no problem. It was just that Yushan's cultivation time was too short and the accumulated base was not enough to complete the heavenly stage foundation building. It was difficult to accomplish even a single calamity, so for the time being, Qin Fan could only continue to instruct and help Yushan in her cultivation and accumulate enough base. Boing! Yushan ran her gong method and then let out a sound. When Jiang Qinglian heard this sound, her heart thumped, feeling that she had been preempted, and she immediately said, "The reward I want is for you to instruct me in my cultivation as well." Qin Fan froze for a moment, then said, "Then go back then and see what technique is suitable for you to cultivate." "I want the technique you are currently practicing," Jiang Qinglian immediately said. Qin Fan was speechless. "What? Can't you?" Seeing Qin Fan's lack of response, Jiang Qinglian immediately asked. Qin Fan sighed helplessly and said, "Yes." In reality, cultivating with these women with low cultivation levels would not benefit him much, even if it was Yushan, the most suitable for dual cultivation, who had a 7-knuckle linglong body. After all, the difference in cultivation level and him was just too great. "Then I'll wait for you to return," Jiang Qinglian said. "Let's not talk about this matter for now, let's get down to business." Qin Fan immediately changed the topic. Then Qin Fan told Jiang Qinglian about his idea of building the heavenly Qin city. Jiang Qinglian's entire body was shocked upon hearing this. This was giving her a city. "No problem, it's just that according to your planning, even if Sky Qin is currently extremely profitable, there is still a huge funding gap." Jiang Qingliang said, "I will also contact Lu Ziyan, and after I go back this time, I will provide some new products, funding should not be a problem." Qin Fan said, "Good, then I will wait for you to come back." As soon as Jiang Qinglian heard that there were new products again, she immediately said happily. After that, Qin Fan said a few words and hung up the phone. "You two continue, cultivation must not stop halfway." After hanging up the phone and seeing Yushan and Catherine stop for a moment, he immediately disguised himself as a strict teacher and lectured. The two girls immediately continued their cultivation in accordance with the request. Qin Fan, on the other hand, dialed Lu Ziyan's phone. Chapter 335, Return of the Missing Person. "Mr. Qin, did you finally think of calling me?" Lu Ziyan received Qin Fan's call and immediately let out a delighted voice. She had been working diligently in Round Island City to help Qin Fan manage his industries, and had been looking forward to Qin Fan's contact, but it turned out that the wait had been several months, only that Qin Fan had not been contacting her, so much so that she had thought that Qin Fan had forgotten about her. Qin Fan didn't say any more nonsense with Lu Ziyan and went straight to the topic. "That Qin Xinxian who shocked the world is really you." Lu Ziyan couldn't help but exclaim in shock at Qin Fan's words. She had naturally watched this video, only, she had suspected that the world-shattering deity was Qin Fan. Now, after confirming this from Qin Fan's mouth, she was still shocked and even had a pang of fear. What kind of existence was she facing before? Fortunately, she had once again hugged the thigh of Qin Fan. "Zizi." Suddenly, the sound of nuisance water came, causing Lu Ziyan to come back to her senses from her shock, and she asked somewhat oddly, "Mr. Qin, this sound?" "It's nothing, it's just pointing people to cultivate, you don't have to care too much." Qin Fan glanced at Catherine, who was undulating in his arms, and then said, "Oh." Lu Ziyan answered, but she wasn't a fool, and in her heart, she guessed what Qin Fan was doing at the moment, which created a sense of urgency in her heart. Something had to happen with Qin Fan so that the relationship could be maintained more securely. And then Qin Fan spoke about the building of the city. "Good, I'll pick a time to meet up with Jiang Qinglian then." Lu Ziyan immediately answered after receiving Qin Fan's instructions. She had a hunch that this was also a great business opportunity. Qin Fan then hung up the phone and raised his hand to clap it, making a pop sound. Catherine looked at Qin Fan with a flirtatious look in her eyes. Qin Fan said seriously, "Continue practicing until dawn." The two of them proceeded to follow the movements transmitted by the heaven mending technique and continued to cultivate under Qin Fan's guidance. In the next few days, Qin Fan was concentrating on instructing Catherine and Yushan to cultivate. 5 days later, Catherine's cultivation had improved greatly under Qin Fan's guidance, and she had moved from the middle to the late stage of Grand Master. Not only that, because of the heaven mending technique that she practiced, which was fed back by Qin Fan, Catherine had already changed in the direction of immortal cultivation. Moreover, what Catherine would also be cultivating afterward was the blood demon ninefold change, so after that, it was highly likely that Catherine would transform from the Grand Master realm to the Foundation establishment stage, and it was hard to say what level of Foundation establishment it would be. As for the Divine Realm, as long as she continued to cultivate the 9 heavy transformations of the Blood Demon, Catherine would most likely be able to condense the Demon Pill just like the Blood Demon clan. As for Yushan, she would continue to accumulate her reserves and prepare for Foundation establishment. I'm going back to Jiang City. Yushan, you'll be the city lord of Tianqin City from now on, while Catherine, you help Yushan well. Qin Fan felt that things were almost done here and was ready to return to Jiang City, so he said to Yushan and Catherine. The two women naturally agreed. After all, the two were already a pair of extremely tacit, understanding bed buddies. Originally, Qin Fan wanted to take Yushan back with him and let Catherine stay behind as the city lord of Tianqin City. However, Yushan's aunt, Yushan, decided to stay in Tianqin City, so Yushan decided to stay, so Qin Fan let Yushan be the city lord, and Catherine assisted Yushan as the deputy city lord. Qin Fan, go check on Xiao Chang, I wonder if it's awake yet? After Qin Fan was ready to leave, Yushan reminded Qin Fan. Qin Fan nodded as he heard this, and then headed with Yushan and Catherine to a rather large building within Tianqin City. Within this building, Qin Fan saw little Cheng, who was coiled around a huge snake body and fell into a deep sleep. Qin Fan, little Cheng is molting, right? Yushan shouted out in surprise after seeing little Cheng at this moment. After that battle, little Cheng fell into a deep sleep, and Qin Fan moved little Cheng here. After these days had passed, the outside of little Cheng's snakeskin, at the moment, had a layer of light green shell, much like it was molting and evolving. Sure enough, little green ate those 5 god realms and got a great tonic. It looks like it's falling into a deep sleep, but in reality, because it's molting and evolving, after this time, there's a high probability that it will succeed in transforming into a dragon and become an augur dragon, Qin Fan said. Catherine and Yushan's faces were astonished beyond measure when they heard Qin Fan's words. Qin Fan, are you saying that Xiao Chang might really evolve into the mythical Jiao dragon? Yushan asked with some disbelief. The Jiaolong, within the dragon race, was at most the lowest ranked dragon, but this only existed in myths and legends. And the fact that Xiao Chang would most likely transform into a Jiao dragon definitely shocked Yushan and Catherine. Jiaolong? The dragons over in the west are a bit different from the ones in the east. If what Master said is true, I'm looking forward to it. Catherine, on the other hand, said with a face full of anticipation. As for what it will evolve into, we can only wait for Xiao Qing to finish molting and evolving, Qin Fan said. Evolving into a Jiao dragon, or the western kind of dragon, Qin Fan was not sure. After all, he had only lived for more than 200 years, and within the immortal cultivation realm snakes transforming into dragons would have been few and far between. And now it was encountered on Earth. He really didn't know what little Cheng would become after molting this time. He could only wait for little Cheng herself to completely molt before he could know. Little Cheng, you guys keep a good eye on it. It's almost time for me to leave. Qin Fan looked at little Cheng in this current state, so he said to the two of them. Yushan and Catherine nodded, then they watched Qin Fan fly into the sky. With Qin Fan's current flying speed, even if he didn't use the walking technique, it would only take a few minutes for him to reach Jiangchang. After Qin Fan flew back to Jiangchang, he first came to the villa on the flying Rainbow Mountain. He hadn't been here for too long, and wanted to see how the withered branch was doing. He landed in the garden of the villa and immediately felt the surging life energy. A new section of branch has grown. Qin Fan looked at the dead branch and revealed a look of satisfaction. At this moment, a tiny new branch had grown out of the dead branch, in addition to a number of bright green shoots. I don't know what this is either. Qin Fan could not help but sigh as he felt the surging life energy permeating around him. Afterward, he took out the 7 seeds that he had gotten from the Holy Spirit sect's underground relics and planted them. The surging life energy that pervaded here could catalyze the 7 seeds to take root and germinate, and as for what these 7 seeds would grow, one could only know after they grew. After doing everything, Qin Fan walked outside the villa and prepared to drive the small broken car, only to remember that the small broken car was still being remodeled at Chen Mengyao's place. Pick a time to go to Dongdu to see how the little broken car is doing. Qin Fan muttered to himself. Then he walked out of the villa, took a cab on the side of the road, and returned to Lin Xingyan's home. Entering the villa, Lin Xingyan happened to be there, and seeing Qin Fan returning, she then said to Qin Fan with a grumpy face, "The missing person sheds back." Chapter 336, Fire. Missing person? Qin Fan froze for a moment when he heard Lin Xingyan's words. Someone who suddenly disappeared and couldn't be contacted by any means. Do you think it's a missing person? Lin Qingyan asked as she looked at Qin Fan with a sly look. I just don't have much of a habit of using my cell phone. Qin Fan could only shrug his shoulders helplessly. The cell phone had to be charged, and once Qin Fan did something, it might take quite a bit of time, so he often just forgot to charge it, especially in Maine, where he had been striking out, and where he had paid attention to whether or not his cell phone had power. It was only after the dust had settled and he needed to find someone that he remembered his cell phone and charged it. Miss, Xiao Fan is not back. Auntie Wang saw this and hurriedly came over and said smilingly, Xiao Fan and Miss, you must be hungry, wash your hands and eat. Qin Fan and Lin Qingyan were said so by Auntie Wang. They honestly went to wash their hands and eat. Lin Qingyan put down her chopsticks after eating some and said, I'm full, I'll go to work first. After saying that, she put down her chopsticks and ran upstairs. Auntie Wang, she seems to be a bit unhappy. Qin Fan turned to Aunt Wang and said. Aunt Wang sighed and said to Qin Fan, Little Fan, actually Miss is quite low in her requirements, as long as you can call her to report that she's safe, she'll be happy. But, it's been almost a month since you left, and you can't be contacted in any way, Miss, she's really scared that you'll just walk away. After all, right now, there's only you and me by Miss' side. And she's too thin-skinned to say it outright, that's why she's like this. Qin Fan frowned when he heard this and said, I promised Grandma Qin Yan that I would protect her, so I won't just walk away. Auntie Wang shook her head when she heard this and sighed, I really hope that you're not doing this because of old madam. Qin Fan heard this and wanted to speak. Only, at this moment, Qin Fan and Aunt Wang's faces changed at the same time. At this moment, the two felt the temperature within the villa rise steeply, and then a fiery flame spread rapidly on the second floor, and in just an instant the fire spread throughout the entire villa. Qin Fan's reaction was quick, his body flashed and went straight to Lin Qingyan's room. At the same time, he released his water avatar to quickly extinguish the fire. When he arrived in front of Lin Qingyan's room, he saw that Lin Qingyan's room was like a huge furnace, with a blazing fire spreading crazily towards the outside. Qin Fan immediately utilized the water aptitude of the aqua-green heavenly body. A water dragon roared out and rushed into Lin Qingyan's room, and then the turquoise-blue sea tide surged within the room, which extinguished all the flames within. After the flames were extinguished, Lin Qingyan's room was almost burnt to ashes, while Lin Qingyan was stupefied and didn't seem to know what was happening. What happened to you? Why did you cast a flame spell? Qin Fan walked into the chart room and looked at Lin Qingyan, full of doubts. Last time, when Lin Qingyan was cultivating, she gave off an extremely cold and icy aura. Qin Fan deduced that Lin Qingyan's bloodline might be an ice phoenix and passed on the ice cloud Shin scripture to Lin Qingyan. As a result, Lin Qingyan had actually blossomed into flames after practicing the ice cloud Shin scripture, which was really too unbelievable. Lin Qingyan looked at Qin Fan and shook her head woodenly, saying, I don't know. Either. Qin Fan walked to Lin Qingyan's side and picked up her wrist, checking her body, and immediately felt a fire attribute power flowing within Lin Qingyan's body. Not only that, he also felt the ice attribute in Lin Qingyan's bloodline. Ice and fire? Qin Fan was filled with surprise as he felt the two forces of Lin Qingyan's bloodline. How the hell is it? Lin Qingyan looked at Qin Fan's surprised expression and asked with a puzzled expression. Qin Fan fell into thought and said, I'm not really sure, I can only ask you, think back, what happened just now? Miss, are you alright? And this time, Auntie Wang had already run up. Looking at the scorched black room, she hurriedly asked. Lin Qingyan shook her head and said, Auntie Wang, I'm fine. Miss, what's going on? Why did it suddenly catch fire? If it wasn't for Xiao Fan being there, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Aunt Wang hurriedly held Lin Qingyan's hand and asked. Yes, what's going on? Think back carefully. Qin Fan also asked. Once Lin Qingyan heard this, she could only stammer, I was just a little angry with you, then I thought to vent, then I felt, there was a flame burning within my body, and then it surged out of the flame. Qin Fan was a bit numb when he heard this. Setting fire because of venting, did this want to burn him with a fire? However, Qin Fan did not dwell on this, but asked, that's it? When Lin Qingyan heard this, she thought for a moment and said, it felt like that moment, I saw a firebird, and then after I came back to my senses, the fire spread, and I couldn't stop even if I wanted to. When Qin Fan heard this, he thought in his heart, could it be the reason for the bloodline in Lin Qingyan's body? Her bloodline is not only ice but also contains fire, which seems to be similar to my 5 elements body. Is she an ice and fire bloodline? Or is it a 5 elements bloodline, or even more? What? Lin Qingyan looked at Qin Fan and asked with some concern, is there something wrong with my body? Am I not suitable for cultivation? No, I don't understand it right now because it seems that your bloodline hasn't completely awakened yet, so I presume that there might be other bloodlines in your body. Qin Fan explained. Lin Qingyan and An Wang were both baffled at this. I've heard Master and Old Lady say that the Lin family of the Xin sect does have a power that comes from the bloodline, but it seems to be the power of cold and ice, but I haven't heard Master and Old Lady mention the fiery one. Auntie Wang recalled for a moment and said, I can't explain this, I can only continue to observe, or head to the Xin sect to find out what's going on in the Lin family. Qin Fan said. In fact, the speculation in Qin Fan's mind might be that the bloodline had mutated, but it was only speculation because right now, he felt that the bloodline power in Lin Qingyan's body had once again fallen silent and was still in an unawakened state. After Qin Fan finished speaking, the three of them fell into silence. After a long time, Auntie Wang spoke first. Miss, this villa seems to have been burned like this, it's impossible to live in, this night, we can only go to the hotel to sleep. Lin Qingyan was immediately embarrassed. A $10 million villa just burned down unintentionally by herself, let's go to Fei Hong Mountain Villa. Qin Fan said. When Auntie Wang heard this, she looked at Qin Fan in a slight daze. Little Fan, you have a villa there? Aha. Qin Fan responded. After saying that, he urged the two of them to set off to the villa at Fei Hong Mountain. Driven by Lin Qingyan, she brought Qin Fan and An Wang to Fei Hong Mountain. Soon, the three of them arrived at Villa No. 1 Qin Fan, who opened the door. It's really yours. Lin Qingyan said as she took a deep breath at the sight. Yeah, I told you before, it's from Jiang Qinglian. Qin Fan said. From Jiang Qinglian? Lin Qingyan froze for a moment upon hearing this, then asked with some sourness, what's your relationship with Jiang Qinglian? Chapter 337 Asking for Help. She counts as my right-hand man. Qin Fan answered Lin Qingyan's question without thinking. Lin Qingyan was a bit frozen when she saw how quickly Qin Fan answered. She had thought that Qin Fan would say lover. After knowing that Tianqin Group was owned by Qin Fan, Lin Qingyan and Jiang Qinglian became more and more familiar with each other, and from talking to Jiang Qinglian, she could hear that Jiang Qinglian and Qin Fan should have a very close relationship. Lin Qingyan once thought that Jiang Qinglian was Qin Fan's lover, but now that Qin Fan answered so decisively, it somewhat confused her. What's wrong? Qin Fan asked. Nothing. Lin Qingyan shook her head and then said, Qin Fan, I feel as if something is different here. Qin Fan heard and immediately understood that Lin Qingyan had sensed the life energy here as well as the converging spiritual qi, so she said, I have laid down some means here to make this place very suitable for cultivation, so in the future, you will be staying here for a long period of time, which will help with your cultivation. Lin Qingyan was slightly stunned upon hearing this and asked, live here for a long time? You are afraid that you have set a fire to burn this place, don't worry, I will teach you later, and there are also means that I have arranged here, it can't be burned, Qin Fan said with a smile. Lin Qingyan nodded slightly after hearing Qin Fan's words. After that, Auntie Wang organized rooms in the villa for Lin Qingyan and herself to stay. After tidying up, Qin Fan taught Lin Qingyan to cultivate, and before doing so, he asked Lin Qingyan what it felt like to cultivate the ice cloud Xin Jing. It feels good, it seems that the sudden appearance of fire doesn't have any effect. Lin Qingyan said. As Qin Fan listened, he became more and more certain that Lin Qingyan's bloodline was very special, and I'm afraid that the complete awakening would have to be the same as his 5-elemental body, allowing one attribute to awaken until after all of them had awakened, Lin Qingyan's bloodline would be completely awakened, and only then would he be able to see everything. However, this was difficult for Qin Fan. If there were many attributes, then the technique to cultivate, the Ice Cloud Xian scripture was definitely not the best technique. Nuwa Huang Gong? Qin Fan thought. However, he shook his head, it was not appropriate. Lin Qingyan's bloodline had not been completely awakened, and performing dual cultivation would be a great waste. Chaotic Immortal Scripture? Qin Fan thought again of obtaining a supreme technique from the Earth Core. After cultivating the Chaotic Immortal Scripture, Qin Fan understood that the Chaotic Immortal Scripture was an overwhelming technique that contained all attributes. However, it was obviously not appropriate to impart this to Lin Qingyan either. This was because the Chaos Immortal Scripture needed to be cultivated in conjunction with the Chaos Bead, and the Chaos Bead was obviously impossible to give to Lin Qingyan when it was in his possession. That's just it, let's just cultivate like this for now, and wait for Lin Qingyan's bloodline to completely awaken before thinking about it. Qin Fan could only choose to remain as he was in the end. And then Qin Fan taught Lin Qingyan to cultivate and control the ice and fire power in her body, while Lin Qingyan learned extremely fast and was soon able to master it. The next few days, there were not much waves. Lin Qingyan worked and cultivated, while Qin Fan prepared a product and went to find Jiang Qinglime. You finally came. When Jiang Qinglime saw Qin Fan coming, there was some resentment in her eyes. She had learned that Qin Fan had come back, but she had waited left and right without waiting for him to show up, which really made her a bit anxious. Alright, don't have this attitude. This is the product I promised. It's called Yuan liquid. It's specially prepared for those who practice martial arts. It can help one cultivate. Qin Fan took out the product and said. The evergreen liquid was to prolong life and improve physique, while the reddish liquid was to beautify and nourish the face, targeting both ordinary people. The Yuan liquid was for martial arts cultivators. Taking it could effectively improve their strength, which was bound to be extremely attractive to those forces willing to cultivate martial arts cultivators. These forces are rich and powerful, so the price is definitely not low. Jiang Qinglian immediately understood the value after hearing Qin Fan say what it was used for. This thing did not have a large audience, but the price would definitely not be low, and the profit would definitely not be worse than the evergreen liquid and reddish liquid. So after deliberating for a while, there was a preliminary plan. After that, Qin Fan talked a little more about the building of Tianqin City, and Jiang Qinglime naturally decided to pick a time to meet up with Lu Ziyan for more detailed discussions. That's all for the matter, I'll go. Qin Fan said when he saw that things were over. When Jiang Qingliang heard that Qin Fan was leaving just like that, she was unhappy. You're leaving just like that? Where's the promised reward? Once Qin Fan heard this, he looked at Jiang Qinglime and asked, You really want that reward? Aha. Once Jiang Qinglian heard this, her face suddenly blushed and she answered. Once Qin Fan heard this, he could only nod helplessly and decided to impart Nuwa Huanggong to Jiang Qinglime, then double cultivate together. Who let him promise himself? He could only go for it going. To the hotel, still. Or to my house? Jiang Qinglime saw Qin Fan agreed and stammered. Anywhere, here is fine. Of course, it is best to go to the No. 1 villa in Fei Hong Mountain. Qin Fan said. Then go to that villa. Jiang Qingliang immediately said. Okay. Qin Fan said. Let's go then. Jiang Qinglian immediately moved forward, and as she held Qin Fan's hand, she was ready to set off to Qin Fan's villa. No. 1. Last night, Lin Qingyan's villa caught fire, so Lin Qingyan currently lives there as well. Qin Fan then spoke. When Jiang Qinglian heard this, she was petrified there. Qin Fan was a bit strange when he saw Jiang Qinglian stiffening there. He naturally did not care if Lin Qingyan was there or not. After all, in his opinion it was a proper cultivation and not strange. However, there seemed to be something wrong with Jiang Qinglian. A moment later, Jiang Qinglian recovered and said with a clench of her teeth, Change the place, go to my villa. Alright, Qin Fan said. And after Qin Fan had only just finished speaking, his cell phone rang. Qin Fan glanced at it surprisingly. It was Song Yi who called. Song Yi and Qin Fan were in the same orphanage, and there was some unpleasantness before. However, Qin Fan saw Song Yi being bullied during a meal, and had a trace of sympathy for him, and this trace of sympathy gave him a trace of the transformation of the mortal senses, which helped him to condense the fury. So after that, Qin Fan helped Song Yi to solve the problem. After that, the two people are considered to be icy, and after that, Qin Fan did not have much contact. Unexpectedly this time, he received a call from Song Yi. I'll take a call. Qin Fan said to Jiang Qingliang and picked up the phone. Got through, finally got through, finally got through. And after Qin Fan connected the phone, a female voice came out, with a hint of crying in her voice. Moreover, the woman speaking of the Xia dialect was significantly a bit rusty, and she did not seem to be a Xia native. Who are you? Qin Fan asked strangely when he heard the voice. Are you Song Yi's friend, Qin Fan? The other party immediately inquired anxiously. Yes, who are you? Qin Fan asked strangely. I'm Song Yi's fiancé, Nakajima Aishue. He was the one who told me that if something happened to him, he told me to call you for help. Please, save my fiancé, Song Yi. With a sobbing voice and even despair in her tone, Nakajima Aishue begged Qin Fan for help. Chapter 338, Nakajima Aishue. Save Song Yi, what's going on? Qin Fan's brows furrowed as he heard the other party's words. He was kidnapped. I didn't know what to do. Then I remembered that Song Yi said to look for you if there was any danger. I'm really desperate. I can only beg you. Nakajima Aishue said with a sobbing voice. Qin Fan listened and frowned. He didn't really trust the other party because the other party was a Japanese. Regardless of the history he knew, or his own previous experiences, he did not have the slightest bit of goodwill towards the Japanese. Therefore, Qin Fan did not believe the other party's words and asked, "Where are you?" "I'm currently in Jinling City in Jianbei." Nakajima Aishue immediately said. "Give me an address, I'll go meet you and talk to me face to face." Qin Fan said. "Good, good." Nakajima Aishue said in a hurry. After saying that, Qin Fan hung up the phone. "What's wrong?" Zhang Qingliang immediately realized that something was wrong and asked. "Song Yi, do you know?" Qin Fan then asked. "No, and you have some relationship, so I gave a lot of care." Zhang Qingliang then told Song Yi's matter. Song Yi had been given care by the Zhang family after he had cleared the air with Qin Fan. After that, Qin Fan and Zhang Qingliang went to Jiling City to talk about the division of overseas trade interests, and Song Yi's company happened to be in foreign trade business, so Zhang Qingliang gave the Japan and Korea segment of the business to Song Yi. It's really possible that Song Yi could have gotten to know Japanese women during this time. Zhang Qingliang concluded. Qin Fan nodded and said, "Then I'll go to Jiling City to meet this Nakajima Aishue." Zhang Qingliang nodded as she heard this and said, "The reward will have to wait for next time." Qin Fan smiled and then flew directly to Jinling City. Soon after, Qin Fan arrived at the Golden Ling City and followed the location provided by Nakajima Aishue to find Nakajima Aishue at the riverside of the Golden Ling City. Nakajima Aishue looked to be about 25 years old, wearing a plain set of jacket, with a good figure and outstanding appearance, though she looked a bit haggard probably because she had cried. "Are you Nakajima Ayuki?" Qin Fan approached and inquired. Upon hearing this, Nakajima Aishue looked at Qin Fan and asked, "You are Qin Fan?" "Yes." Qin Fan responded. After Nakajima Aishue confirmed Qin Fan's identity, she was surprised that the other party had come over from Jiangnan so quickly. But she didn't bother to dig deeper and immediately said, "Please, save Yi-jun. You need to tell me the details and I'll make a decision." Qin Fan said. Nakajima Aishue wiped her tears and said, "I am the daughter of the Nakajima family of the Yangri Chamber of Commerce in the Japanese country. 8 months ago, because of business dealings, I became acquainted with Righteous June. Soon after, we fell in love with each other, and we got engaged in January, and we're going to get married 3 months later." "Then who kidnapped Song Yi and what was the purpose?" Qin Fan asked. "It was the Nakajima family, that is, my father and them." Nakajima Aishue said. "Nakajima family, your father?" Qin Fan was a bit surprised. "Why?" "I was betrothed by my family since I was a child, but I didn't like the other party at all. I only liked Yi-jun, so after I befriended Yi-jun, I came to Xiagwa with Yi-jun without any hesitation. I thought that I could be together with Yi-jun forever. But 3 days ago, the Nakashima family people suddenly came to ask me to go back to get married, Yi-jun, and I must have resisted strongly, and then it was Yi-jun who fought to the death to protect me, allowing me to run out to look for you. However, Yi-jun was taken away by them. They are now threatening me with Yoshikuan's life to make me marry Kenji Kusanagi. But I knew that if I went back, Kusanagi Kenji would never let Yoshikuan go, so I could only listen to Yoshikuan and ask you for help." Nakajima Ayuki then told Qin Fan the reason. "Kusanagi Kenji?" Qin Fan asked as he listened. "He is the object of my marriage contract. This man is ruthless and has an extremely vicious heart, and he is the future head of the Kusanagi family, which is very powerful in the Japanese country," Nakajima Ayuki said. "According to you, Kusanagi Kenji is much better than Song Yi. Why did you still choose Song Yi?" Qin Fan asked. Qin Fan still remains skeptical of the woman for now. "I know that Yi-jun is not as good as Kusanagi Kenji in terms of looks or family history, but Yi-jun, he really loves me and treats me as his lover. And in Kusanagi Kenji's eyes, I'm a personal item to him, and he doesn't allow personal items to be touched or taken away. Therefore, I don't have any feelings for Kusanagi Kenji. I only want to marry Yashijin and be his woman. I don't care even if my life is a little worse." Nakajima Ayuki expressed her true feelings for Song Yi to Qin Fan. "Where has Song Yi been taken?" Qin Fan asked. "At the Ryo Pavilion, where they were waiting for me, but I knew that once I went there, Kusanagi Kenji would definitely kill Yi-jun in front of me," Nakajima Ayuki said. "I really couldn't think of a way to save Yoshikuan before I contacted you." "Let's go, take me to the Ryo Pavilion." Qin Fan said. "I can't, I'll be arrested if I go, and if I'm arrested, they won't let Yoshikuan go." Nakajima Aishue quickly shook her head. "Don't worry, since I'm here, I won't let this happen," Qin Fan said. When Nakajima Aishue heard this, she was very torn, and in the end, she believed Song Yi and chose to believe Qin Fan. Thus, Qin Fan and Nakajima Aishue took a taxi at the riverside and headed to the Riang Pavilion. The Riang Pavilion was the headquarters of the Riang Chamber of Commerce in the Japanese country in Jiling City, and it was also a clubhouse. Inside, it was built entirely in the Japanese style, with wooden houses with high platforms, tatami mats, green bamboo in the courtyard, papier-mâché windows, rockery and water pavilions, as well as dark red lanterns hanging from the eaves. Upon entering, one felt that one had arrived in Japan.
"Miss, you figured out that you're willing to come." After Nakajima Ayuki entered, a pure Japanese woman with beautiful appearance greeted her in warm and moving Japanese.
Take me to them,"
Nakajima Aiju said nervously.
"Miss, come with me, the family head and young master Kusanagi have been waiting for you to come for a long time," the woman then said. After saying that, the woman walked ahead and headed inside.
As for Chin Fan, the woman didn't care about it at all.
In her opinion, no matter who came over with Nakajima Aishua, it wouldn't change the outcome. Chin Fan and Nakajima Aishua, on the other hand, followed behind the woman as they walked inward. While walking inside, Chin Fan's divine sense had already encompassed the Ryo Pavilion, and had also discovered Song Yi's figure. Currently, Song Yi had some superficial injuries that were not life-threatening. Soon, Chin Fan and Nakajima Aishua walked to a room, then the woman who guided them pushed the door open and said, "Miss, please come in."
Chin Fan and Nakajima Aishua walked in. "Ayuki, you're finally here." After Nakajima Ayuki walked in, a young man in the room looked at her and said, Chapter 339, The Kusanagi Family.
The young man appeared to be 25 or 26 years old, wearing a white shirt, with a handsome appearance and gleaming eyes as he looked at Nakajima Ayuki. He then noticed Chin Fan, who had come along with Nakajima Ayuki, and frowned slightly, obviously a little surprised that Nakajima Ayuki had brought a man over. However, after scanning Chin Fan and noticing that his demeanor was not much different from that of an ordinary person, and that he did not feel the true chi that a person practicing martial arts should have, he then revealed a smile of contempt. On the other hand, beside this man, a man wearing a traditional Japanese samurai uniform was sitting on his knees. The man's expression was solemn, and a katana was placed horizontally on top of his knees. His hands were pressed above his knees and his eyes were closed, seemingly not caring about the arrival of Nakajima Ayuki and Chin Fan, as if it did not matter to him who came. On the other hand, opposite to Kusanagi Kenji was sitting a middle-aged man with a flat head and glasses. This man saw Nakajima Aishiwa's appearance and revealed a pleased smile. However, seeing Chin Fan, his face then turned to surprise.
"Ayuki, sit."
Kusanagi, ti fourth tone. Kenji extended his hand and made an inviting gesture towards Nakajima Aiju. "Young Master Kusanagi, I came over here to tell you that I really don't like you, and that my marriage contract with you that was merely set by the previous generation, and was not of my own will, so please let Yoshi-kun and I go." Nakajima Ayuki did not sit down, but instead looked at Kusanagi Kenji and said with all her courage. As soon as Nakajima Ayuki's words came out of his mouth, the man with the flat head and glasses changed his face and immediately snapped, "Ayuki, what are you talking about?"
"Uncle Nakajima, there's no need to be angry." Just as soon as this man's words came out, Kusanagi Kenji immediately said.
Upon hearing this, Uncle Nakajima immediately gathered his emotions and revealed an apologetic look to Kusanagi Kenji. "Young Master Kenji, I'm very sorry, it's because I was not strict in my discipline."
This Uncle Nakajima was Nakajima Ayuki's father, Nakajima Ichiro, who was also the president of the Nyo Chamber of Commerce.
Kusanagi Kenji waved his hand to indicate that it was fine, then turned to Nakajima Aiju and said, "Miss Aiju, you should know that our Kusanagi family has been inherited for hundreds of years in the country of Japan, and looks after one of the 3 divine artifacts, the Heavenly Cushion Cloud Sword, and has received an audience from the Emperor, making it a pivotal and great lineage in the country of Japan. Therefore, the Kusanagi family has always been extremely attached to the marriage contract, and once it is finalized, it must be carried out, or else it would be a disgrace to the Kusanagi family."
Kusanagi Kenji looked at Nakajima Ayuki and said indifferently, only, there was a warning in his words.
But nowadays is a society with freedom of love. I found someone who can let me commit to my life. This kind of rule of elders fixing the marriage contract should have been changed a long time ago.
Nakajima Ayuki immediately said. "Miss Ayuki, are you unable to see me and want to tear up the marriage contract?" Kusanagi Kenji looked at Nakajima Aiju with an icy cold gaze and said. Nakajima Aishiwa's delicate body trembled when she was gazed at by Kusanagi Kenji.
As for Chin Fan, who was listening to Kusanagi Kenji's words, he heard an extremely crucial sentence. One of the 3 divine weapons of Japan, the Heavenly Cloud Sword, was in the Kusanagi family.
No, young Master Kusanagi, you're excellent, very excellent."
Nakajima Aiju hurriedly waved her hand to explain.
Only, Kusanagi Kenji did not give Nakajima Aiju time to explain, but instead clapped his hands. With that, the paper door on the other side was pushed open, revealing the figure of a man. This man was Song-yi, who had been tied up in 5 different ways. At this moment, Song-yi was unable to speak with a cloth stuffed in his mouth, but after he saw Nakajima Aishue, his body immediately struggled with tears streaming down his face, while he did not see Chin-fan standing aside because of his angle Lee-jun. When Nakajima Aishue saw Song-yi, her complexion changed abruptly and she wanted to rush over, but the door was quickly closed. "He's innocent, please let him go." Nakajima Aiju then looked pleadingly at Kusanagi Kenji. "Sit." Kusanagi Kenji made another invitation gesture. "What the hell do you want?" "I don't like you at all, I only want to live an ordinary life with Lee-jun." "Why must you marry me, a man like you? No matter if it's in the Japanese country, or in the Xia country, there will be tons of women who will like you, and even those women are better than me, why must you marry me?" Nakajima Ayuki seemed to really be unable to endure it at this moment, and nearly exploded out, hissing at Kusanagi Kenji. And as soon as she roared this out, the man sitting beside Kusanagi Kenji's side violently opened his eyes, and instantly a fine aura shot out, and the room chilled with it as a terrifying aura swept through, filling the entire room. This instantly made Nakajima Ayuki pale and stagger. "Murakami-kun, stop." And at this moment, Kusanagi Kenji said indifferently. Hearing the order, Murakami-kun then withdrew his breath, but his gaze was directed warningly at Nakajima Aiju, as if to say that the next time would not be the last. "Dad, why are you pushing me so hard? You weren't like this before. I'm your daughter, and Yoshi-kun is my lover and your future son-in-law. How can you be so cold and look at us like this?" Nakajima Ayuki turned to Nakajima Ichiro and cried. Nakajima Ichiro looked at Nakajima Ayuki with an ugly face and said slowly, "Ayuki, you have no idea of the power of the Kusanagi family. We need you to marry the Kusanagi family right now to get the support of the Kusanagi family." "So, I'm just a tool, right?" Nakajima Ayuki said extremely bleakly. Many women in the Nakajima family, that she knew of, were nothing more than tools for the marriage alliance, and she had always hated all of this, wanting to pursue her own love, and when she had met Song-yi, she had righteously come to the Summer Kingdom with Song-yi, just wanting to escape her fate. "Ayuki, you don't realize the situation of the Nio Chamber of Commerce and our Nakajima family. Let me tell you now, the Jin Chamber of Commerce has already made a move against us," Ichiro Nakajima said. "Jin's Chamber of Commerce?" Nakajima Ayuki froze for a moment upon hearing this, then said, "The Kim Chamber of Commerce in South Korea? Not bad," Nakajima Ichiro said. "But, Dad, the Kim's Chamber of Commerce has made a few moves against us before, but they were the ones who lost out, right? Why are you so scared now?" Nakajima Ayuki asked in confusion. "Yes, that was once the case, it's just that everything has changed now," Nakajima Aikiru said at this moment with an incredibly grave face. "Why?" Nakajima Ayuki asked in disbelief. "Because, the Jin family's sword saint, Jin Shangwa, has come out of the gate and is ranked at the 15th in the divine ranking," Nakajima Ichiro said gruffly. Nakajima Ayuki was naturally puzzled upon hearing this. What Jin family sword saint and god ranking she didn't understand at all. Jin Shangwa, 10 days ago, killed 131 of our Nakajima family's guards with just one sword, Nakajima Ichiro said. Nakajima Aishue's face instantly changed upon hearing this. The Nakajima family's guards, she naturally knew about them. They were elite bodyguards with excellent weapons and equipment, and there were many powerful cultivators among them. The other party, however, chopped 131 people with one sword. Is that Jin Shangwa a divine figure? What does that have to do with the Kusanagi family's marriage? Nakajima Ayuki asked as she looked toward Kusanagi Kenji. Kusanagi Kenji sensed Nakajima Aiju's gaze, his mouth curled up slightly, and he said in a divine and incomparable manner, "It's because of my grandfather, who is ranked 9th on the god ranking."